Good morning, it is 7 o'clock and welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophy and Wilfred, very good morning from me as well. Another busy day ahead.
The Prime Minister says he is not prepared to walk away after surviving a day of huge pressure on his leadership.
Buckingham Palace says the King is ready to support the police if he's contacted over the most recent allegations against his brother Andrew.
£6 billion black hole and ever-increasing waiting lists. Can the government get a grip on the special educational needs crisis?
Also today, we're speaking to the families at the heart of a landmark case against social media giants.
And the skier, Lindsey Vonn, says she has no regrets after her Winter Olympic hopes were cut short just 13 seconds into her bid for a medal.
A very good morning to you. A day is a long time in politics. That's certainly true for yesterday. At times, it felt like Sir Keir Starmer was potentially on his way out. The leader of the Scottish Labour Party called for him to quit. But then, crucially, his cabinet did rally around him. The Prime Minister lives to fight another day.
Well, last night, he told MPs that he was not prepared to walk away from the job, but he is having to rebuild his team around him after losing two of his most senior members of staff, and there are rumours as well that more could be going today.
We want to break down exactly what happened and what you can expect to happen from here. In a moment, we're going to be speaking to Ed Miliband, one of the people who's been talked about as a possible replacement for Keir Starmer. But first, let's hear what the leader of the Scottish Labour Party did have to say when he called this extraordinary press conference at 2:30 p.m. yesterday.
The distraction needs to end and the leadership in Downing Street has to change. Keir Starmer is a decent man, and it is no secret that I've always got on well with him, and he has dedicated his life to public service. I have also dedicated myself to public service, and I need to decide what I'm willing to accept and what I'm willing to tolerate.
So that was the moment of maximum peril yesterday. But then Keir Starmer's cabinet came up batting for him. They started to rally round and they posted some messages of support on social media. Rachel Reeves, for example, the Chancellor, saying, with Keir as our Prime Minister, we're turning things around. David Lammy was one of the first out of the blocks, the Deputy Prime Minister. He talked about the massive mandate that Keir Starmer won at the election. And Wes Streeting, one of the people, of course, we're talking about as a potential leader, also came out in support. But Wes Streeting did something else as well. He gave our political editor, Beth Rigby, copies of all the private text messages between him and Mandelson, getting ahead of the story, perhaps making a clean slate for a future leadership bid.
Does Keir Starmer need to resign?
No, let's give Keir, just give Keir that chance. Let him set out how he's going to lead us forward.
I've got these messages here, and I've only just, to be honest, Wes, I'm literally just reading them shortly before you came in, but there is a lot of genuine intimacy here and friendship. You know, Wes to you, to Peter, great pitch, lovely photos in the time Peter sends you a kiss. There's well done on the BBC. This is Peter Mandelson to you in June 25. I'm literally reading them as I go along. Well done on the BBC, very good kiss. Are you planning to visit the US this year? You hope so, exclamation mark, kiss. Are you embarrassed by that? I mean, that's quite an intimate friendship, isn't it?
Do I resile from friendship with Peter Mandelson? Yes, absolutely, given his behaviour and what he's done. Do I resile from those messages? No.
How embarrassed are you by these WhatsApps between you and him?
I'm embarrassed to have known Peter Mandelson.
We're streeting with Beth yesterday. Well, the Prime Minister ended yesterday with a meeting with his MPs in the Labour Party in Parliament. This is him as he left Downing Street for that meeting, where he told MPs that he was not prepared to walk away from his mandate and that he would keep fighting for his country. Let's bring in Alex now, who's live there in Downing Street for us. Alex, I guess that doesn't quite sum up the tone, according to reports, that the Prime Minister delivered to his MPs. We were asking the question this time yesterday, would he go quietly or would he fight back? And he was in fighting spirits.
It's quite a remarkable turnaround, actually, for Sir Keir Starmer. It looked like things were collapsing. You know, over the weekend, he lost his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney, and then his Director of Comms, Tim Allen, just yesterday. It felt like everything was collapsing, but it seems that the Cabinet Ministers rallying in their support for him, tweeting messages of support, emboldened him and actually allowed him to give quite a good performance to the Labour MPs at the parliamentary meeting yesterday. One I spoke to said he gave an outstanding speech, and actually it seems like a lot of the anger has turned on Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader.
Alex, thank you very much indeed. Alex Rogers there for us in Downing Street this morning. Well, it was an extraordinary day yesterday, a seismic day, but it did feel like members of the Cabinet looked over the abyss, if you like, to the reality of what it would mean if Keir Starmer were to go as Prime Minister and then step back. So let's get a bit more on this, shall we? We can talk now to Ed Miliband, the Secretary of State for Climate Change and Net Zero. Good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
So let's get the message of support out first. You're 100% backing the Prime Minister's leadership.
Of course. Look, I think your description is right, which is I think MPs as a whole looked over the precipice yesterday and thought we need to step back, we need to back our leader, we need to back the man who was elected only 18 months ago as Prime Minister. But I want to be absolutely clear with you, Peter Mandelson should never have been appointed to this job. We as a government have a mission, which is to stand up for the powerless in our society, not the powerful. That's why the Peters appointment undermines that. And as Keir said last night, this has got to be a moment of change for the government. A moment of change where we show much greater clarity of purpose, consistency of purpose. And my experience in politics is what gets you through very difficult days, and yesterday was a very difficult day, is mission and values.
I'm intrigued to hear what you say there, because obviously you're condoning the Peter Mandelson, but are you saying that the Labour Party needs to change and the government needs to change in other ways as well? I'm thinking about West Streeting there, you know, in one of the
yes, I
messages.
am saying that.
Yeah,
yes,
in what ways?
Look, Keir put it well last night, which is he said, look, I recognise it's not just the Peter Mandelson appointment. We've made mistakes in policy which have drowned out the many good things we're doing as a government, like winter fuel payment, for example, wasn't consistent with our values as a government. We need to change. And I think what I saw from Keir last night was someone who wants to seize this moment and make it a moment of change to reconnect with the country. And I want to be clear with you, Sophie. I know we have a Herculean task to do that, to reconnect with your viewers, to move on from this episode. Because lots of people in the country will be incredibly angry about what's happened. And they're right to be angry.
Do you think, do you agree with West Streeting that the government needs a better growth strategy? That's what he said in one of these private messages. I
think that actually Rachel has done a very good job as Chancellor. I don't agree with, if that's what, I haven't seen the detail of the messages, but I think we've seen the stability that is essential. We've seen investment. I'm announcing today, I know we've got other things to talk about, a big investment in local power so that communities can own their own clean energy. That's only possible because of the decisions Rachel's made. We've got £150 of costs being taken off energy bills. That's because of the decisions that Rachel made too.
Another thing that West Streeting said was that there's no clear answer to the question, why Labour? Is that fair, do you think?
I know the answer to that question, which is for too long, this country has been run for the wealthy and powerful, and that needs to change.
Has it changed under this Labour government so far?
Not enough. And I think the job for all of us is to work out how to be bolder in that, because people have... You know, the biggest issue we face as a country, and your viewers will face this, is that for nearly 20 years now, we've had a long-standing cost of living crisis, not just a few years when Russia invaded Ukraine and bills went through the roof, and people are hurting. And so I think the job of all of us, and leadership as a collective business, is to show how we can rise to that challenge.
I mean, it sounds a little bit, and you'll forgive me for saying this, like
I'll
this is your own leadership pitch.
Absolute baloney.
Are you interested?
Absolutely baloney.
Are you interested at all?
Nope. I've said this before.
No, I know.
No, baloney, honestly.
So are you interested in the leadership?
No, I'm interested in supporting Keir Starmer.
Can you rule out running for the leadership?
I'm not running for leadership, no.
Can you rule out running
I'm
for
not
the
running for leadership.
I know you're not running for it right now, but can you rule out running for the leadership?
Yes, I'm not going to run, yeah.
The Sun reported a Labour source saying Ed is preparing to run again. He's told people, despite what he says when he's interviewed. Are you lying to me, Miliband?
Such a reliable newspaper.
Are you lying to me?
Of course I'm not. Don't be ridiculous. You know, I did the job before. I've said before, I think to you, that it inoculated me against this. I'm interested in supporting Keir. That's the duty we all have. And I think, look, there is an important point here, because your correspondent made reference to this. I think partly people remember what happened under the Tories and the chaos and disorder that there was. We don't want to go down that road.
I'm just interested to know about how things unfolded yesterday, because we had this extraordinary spectacle of Anas Sarwar, the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, coming out and calling on Keir Starmer to go. How do you feel towards Anas Sarwar this morning? You angry?
Anas is my friend. I think he made a wrong judgment yesterday. I don't agree with him. I don't think it was helpful what he did, to put it mildly. But you know, we move on from that. And I think what you saw was actually, and genuinely, look, I've addressed these parliamentary Labour Party meetings as leader. There can be an ordeal. I think you saw a will among the people there to get behind Keir, give him the time and space to reset the government and show the clarity of focus. And by the way, it was a different Keir last night. It was a more liberated Keir. It was the Keir I know. Decency, integrity, knew what he was fighting for with great clarity, and more of that.
Just to go back to Anas Sarwar, at what point did you find out yesterday what he was going to do?
It was probably a Sky tweet, probably. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't know.
The reason I ask is because it reminds me a bit, I think it's fair to say, about... Do you remember when, or you will definitely remember, when James Purnell, agent of history, James Purnell resigned over Gordon Brown's leadership, and he
I remember it well.
So.
I remember it well because my wife was in Labour at that point, with my first child, and so I had other priorities.
He resigned expecting David Miliband was going to follow him, right? And do you think that's what's going on here with Anas Sarwar? You know, he made that call expecting the cavalry were going to come behind, because he's close to West Streeting, right?
I don't know. Look, I'm not going to get into the Kremlinology of all that. I think this is about the country, and I think it's so important, this, which is our job. We were elected to change the country, right? That's what your viewers want us to do. Your viewers aren't interested in the who's up, who's down. They're interested in how we change the country.
Team Wes have hit out at number 10 for briefing he was behind the Anas Sarwar move. At the same time as Wes was in an interview saying Keir needed a chance to set out his case and his plan, number 10 was briefing that Wes had told Anas Sarwar to make his statement. That is the problem.
MoveOn.org. I mean, let's just get on. Let's just move past all this. Honestly, I mean, all of this... Come on, we've got to focus. And I'm saying to our colleagues, don't focus on yourselves. Focus on the country. That's what Keir's message was last night, and he's dead right. OK,
and then just finally, we saw, of course, West Streeting, revealing those... sorry, I know I mentioned his name a few times in the interview, but revealing those messages from Peter Mandelson between them. Yeah. Is there anything that you want to, get off your chest? I don't know how your relationship was with Peter Mandelson.
Well, our relationship has been rather distant, I would say. I had very limited contact with the former US ambassador. OK,
thank you very much indeed. Ed Miliband on the programme this morning.
I mean, always adamant that he doesn't want leadership.
Very, very, very adamant.
But I would respectfully say it's a strong performance that doesn't do his chances any negative impact. But the most interesting thing to me on that is saying we need to do more. Yeah. Economically to shift to the left.
I think this is the thing that's interesting. They're saying there's a reset. They're saying that change needs to happen.
And very much they're saying, what's the meaning of Labour? It's to, make this country work for the working person, not for the wealthy. And again, you just step back from that core vote in Parliament last week, which the Prime Minister couldn't win, had to cave to his backbenchers. Previously, examples of that have been in and around welfare policy and some economic policy. It sounds like there's going to be more of the same with that, which is the initial aim of Starmer plus Reeves on economic policy, maybe to be fractionally more centrist than it's been. Based on that, seems to be long gone.
It's going to be another big day, I think it's fair to say, for the Prime Minister, and a big day as well for the royal family, potentially.
Indeed, Buckingham Palace has issued a formal statement saying the King stands ready to support police investigating claims against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It came after another moment where the King was heckled by a member of the public about his brother. So
the Prince and Princess of Wales, so William and Kate, also issued their first statement about the Epstein files. It's ahead of Prince William's arrival in Saudi Arabia, a warning that this report from our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills contains some flash photography.
You wonder if this was the final straw. Just hours after the King was heckled again about his brother, Buckingham Palace released their statement. The King has made clear, it said, in words and through unprecedented actions, his profound concern at the allegations which continue to come to light in respect of Mr Mountbatten Windsor's conduct. While the specific claims in question are for Mr Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them, as you would expect. As was previously stated, Their Majesty's thoughts and sympathies have been and remain with the victims of any and all forms of abuse. This is what it was referring to. Emails that suggest that when Andrew was a UK trade envoy, he shared information with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Thames Valley Police say they're now assessing that claim. There's been no response from Andrew. There's been so much speculation about whether the royal family have in any way put pressure on Andrew to talk publicly. Within this statement, they do talk about questions that maybe he has to answer, suggesting that possibly behind the scenes there have been some very difficult conversations. But ultimately what this statement says is the royal family know they cannot stay silent on this issue, and that's because it risks further damage to the wider monarchy. We'd already had another significant statement even before William arrived for this important diplomatic trip to Saudi Arabia. A palace spokesperson unexpectedly telling us the Prince and Princess have been deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims. Released partly in the hope that they could maybe draw attention back to his Saudi visit.
It's about the way in which monarchs and royalty inhabit two different realms. One is the personal, you're an individual, you're a human being, but the other is the symbolic realm. You are representing not just yourself, you're representing your family, you're representing a constitutional dispensation, and you're representing a country, a state, and a nation. And getting all, I mean, it is fiendishly difficult to get this right.
As Buckingham Palace prepared to press the button on their statement, William was rubbing shoulders with his counterpart, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. An extra level of hospitality from one future king to another at what is a difficult time. In some ways, this a display of what the royal family should be about, that global reputation now being threatened by the allegations facing his own uncle. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News in Riyadh.
Well, staying with the Epstein files, Ghislaine Maxwell has refused to answer questions from politicians at the US House Oversight Committee. It's about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She said that she wouldn't speak unless she's granted clemency by President Trump.
Her lawyer released a statement after her appearance saying he'd advised her to plead the Fifth Amendment, which allows someone to refuse to answer questions to avoid incriminating themselves.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the US Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Well, the House Oversight Committee don't just want answers from Ghislaine Maxwell. Our correspondent James Matthews spoke to a member of that committee Ro Khanna following fresh allegations that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor passed information to Epstein while he was UK trade envoy.
Ro Khanna is one of the congressmen behind the legislation that released the Epstein files. He was on his way into the deposition of Ghislaine Maxwell when I asked him about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Remember, the Oversight Committee, it's looking into the Epstein affair, and it's long wanted Andrew to come and testify. Ro Khanna said there was somebody else in the royal family with questions to answer, he felt, and that was King Charles.
Well, the king has to answer what he knew about Andrew. And just stripping Andrew of a title is not enough. I mean, Andrew needs to come before our committee and start answering questions. I mean, look, if you have allegations of raping a young girl, I don't think the appropriate punishment is you no longer get to be a prince. There's got to be more than that.
Do you think the royal family must have known something they're not telling us?
They need to answer, the king and queen, and I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand the British custom, but what's up with this? That you're going and someone's asking the queen a question, the queen is offended that she's being asking a question? I mean, come on. She wears the same clothes. She eats the same food. She's just a human being. She needs to answer the same questions anyone does.
Andrew has vigorously denied allegations of wrongdoing, and there's nothing to suggest the wider royal family was involved with Epstein. But he was a man in their midst, invited to Buckingham Palace, a visitor to the family's private cabin on the Balmoral estate. Ro Khanna said that maybe this will be the end of the British monarchy. That, I suppose, is a stretch, but it is a reflection of where the conversation is here and not what they want to hear in Buckingham Palace.
I mean, look, I don't think anyone would downplay the crisis that this is for the royal family. But I guess some people might think it's a little bit rich from America to be calling on the UK to do more, when actually it feels that, if you look at Lord Mandelson, if you look at Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, people in the UK have faced more consequences for what came out of the files.
Yeah, and I think what you would say in Ro Khanna's defence is he has called for pretty much everyone to testify. But yeah, it's a bit rich to say, to single out, admittedly, I'm sure that's who James asked him about, to single out, the king for not doing more when you could list, 17 high-profile US individuals who have been implicated quite severely in these files, not that being mentioned in the files is any confirmation of wrongdoing, and they haven't testified. So where's his focus on them, I think would be a very fair point to say. Of course, they did subpoena President and Hillary Clinton, and they are going to testify. So there's processes unfolding in that regard.
How much pressure is there on those figures in the US who have been named?
Well, I think everyone rightfully steps back and compares what's happened here with Mandelson and with Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor to what hasn't happened with a lot of high-profile figures there. So not the same amount of pressure. The figurehead, the focal point of the pressure at the moment, and I think it's because he has such a high-profile public role, is the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who's been mentioned a lot of times in this latest release of the Epstein files. And there's a little bit of a growing drumbeat around that, but I think that will be the telling example to see if there's a similar kind of pressure there. I think the other interesting thing, just to step back and say on all of this, is what's triggered this latest round. Again, it's kind of business relationships, which is sort of rather kind of upsetting, I think, for everyone, that's what's getting things over the line, because that's what can be proven. And even Ro Khanna, just to highlight this, he is a lawmaker, he's a legislator, and I think many people's questions on all of this, whether it's US pointing fingers at the UK, royal versus politics or whatever, is where are the criminal investigations if they're warranted in this regard? Where's the DOJ? What are the police doing here? So I think that's the other point on this that everyone kind of pauses and reflects on.
Yeah, it feels like it's just going to run around, doesn't it? Now to the UK, because 1 in 5 children are now identified as having special educational needs. It's according to the government. Many of them are being supported inside their existing mainstream school as well. But look, as the number of children classed as having special educational needs rises, so does the bill, and it's now threatening to bankrupt many local councils.
The government says it will step in and spend £5 billion to pay off 90% of the debts that councils have built up. But do politicians now need to start thinking the unthinkable when it comes to special educational needs and find ways to get that bill down? Our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, has more.
You'll go now in your books.
The Rise School in West London teaches autistic pupils from all over the capital. Many of these children have struggled to cope in mainstream schools, but are now learning with specialist help. The future role for these types of special school and the pupils in them could soon be changing.
Hi guys. Hello. Hello.
We took Ed Davey to the Rise School.
I'm really keen
The father of a disabled child and the most outspoken on this subject in Westminster.
So I'm really keen to know, is it a good school?
Where I was before, it was there was one TA between 2 classes, and it was just so stressful.
There's less people in a classroom, and obviously the teachers understand you more, because obviously you got the support that you need, and you're not just get pushed away to the side.
Have you noticed a difference in how you feel?
Very different, yeah.
The government wants more children with additional needs in mainstream schools in future. Fewer pupils could get dedicated extra funding through an educational health and care plan, and the rights of parents to appeal a decision could be curbed. Ministers say this will improve the children's life chances. We caught up with Ed after our chat with the pupils.
What did you think when you saw their view of their school?
The story they told of this amazing school was so positive, and how they had their life chances had been changed by this school, with the smaller class sizes, the specialist attention. The idea we can all mainstream children is just nonsense. We do need specialist schools.
Principle of money following a child with special needs.
That's a huge principle, really important.
And that's something you would fight to protect?
Yeah, 100%. Those legal rights are critical, yes we will. They're looking too narrowly at the thing that's in front of them. They're not looking at a transformation of the system.
If schools like this are clearly working, why is there a push for change? Here's the context. The amount of EHCPs has risen dramatically since they were introduced in 2014, and the number is only going up. Almost all types of need have risen, with autism up faster than any other. The result? High need spending has exceeded funding for years. It's why the government is talking about this now. In 2 years' time, the annual deficit is expected to be £6 billion a year. Council leaders like Matthew Hicks have been picking up the bill, although recently the government has used a loophole to take the money off their books.
So the system's in crisis for many reasons, and it's really important that we see a root and branch reform of the current system.
Do you think that the government has got the stomach for this fight?
I think the government has to deal with this. It's not looked at. We can go back to 60 councils that won't survive if that deficit sits on their books.
At the moment, a school can only access top-up funding for a child with special educational needs if that costs more than £6,000. But I understand there have been discussions in government about raising that to £40,000, £50,000 or even £60,000. That means many more kids' needs will have to be met from central budgets and fewer kids getting special funding for their help. No decisions have been taken, and the Department for Education insists cost savings aren't the goal. There's no doubt change is needed, but these children dream of the same futures as those elsewhere. But after months of discussions, they wait to see if this government has found the answers. Sam Coates, Sky News, West London.
Sam's going to be joining us a little bit later in the programme to talk about that in more detail. Maybe we'll sneak a question to him about Westminster details.
I'm sure he wouldn't mind that.
In fact, if we don't, I'm sure he'll just start talking about it, which I'd support.
Yeah.
It's not a criticism.
We're here for it.
Coming up after the break, a really interesting and important interview. This is this trial. We talked about it a bit yesterday, taking place in California, brought by some parents of some children who felt that social media companies were responsible for some things and harm and worse that came of some of their children, and they're taking them to court over whether or not the algorithm is addictive by design. It's a really interesting case. We'll be talking to them after this break.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Welcome back. Thanks for being with us this morning. Well, we all know how addictive our phones can feel, but now it's being put to a legal test. The world's biggest social media platforms are appearing at a landmark trial claiming they deliberately addict and cause harm to children. This is the plaintiffs trying to bring that case against the social media companies.
So they allege that TikTok, Snapchat, Meta, who own Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube have rewired how our kids think, feel and behave. So according to the class action master complaint, TikTok and Snapchat have already settled, but Meta and YouTube will now face a jury for the first time ever.
We're able to speak now to George Nicolau, Ellen Room, Mariano Janine, who are the parents of Christopher, Jules and Mia. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. And we haven't set this up sufficiently of why you care so much about this issue. And if I may, George, first of all, if you could tell us what happened to your son.
Yes, thanks a lot for having us. We've got a massive time difference, but yes, we lost our son, Christopher, who was attacked by predators through social media. They gave him 50 days to complete challenges or else they'll kill his family. The challenges got more and more horrific. And it was only after we lost Christopher, we found that in actual fact, they threatened him, traumatized him, and through certain platforms, they went into private messaging and traumatized him for 50 days, saw a massive change in his character, but I just couldn't work out what was actually wrong. It's only after we lost him, we then found lots of horrific information. And here we are today.
And Mia, can you tell us about Mariano?
Yes, Mia passed away the first day after the second lockdown. The day that she returned to school, she was physically bullied, online bullied, and apparently they did a video with her face. That was almost 5 years ago. We never really get all the information from the phones. And we are just here supporting parents in another country that they are fighting the same fight that we are fighting there.
And Ellen, you found Jules unconscious.
I did. Back in April 22, I came home to find him not breathing. I've made my campaign for Jules Law quite massive in the UK, in the sense that I went to get his social media data and was refused. And as a parent, you have no legal rights to obtain your children's social media data. So I've been campaigning for the right to automatically preserve children's data when they die, which has just been heard in the House of Lords. And I'm also one of the first British parents to sue TikTok in Delaware, but that's a separate case to this case that's going through.
I just want to say how heartbreaking that the stories are. You know, we've been looking at pictures of your beautiful children on our screens, and it's the kind of thing that no parent should ever have to go through. And I guess I just want to thank you for being the voice of your children and for trying to drive change through and using the absolute tragedies that have happened here. George, what are you calling for? What do you want to see happen with this trial?
But we've actually had enough. We need major changes. Platforms have got to become responsible in what data is allowed to be put through. We just need to we can't bring our children back, but at least if we could help save other children's lives, make these changes. Another thing is the way that Australia changed the rules with under 16 ban. We'd like that to happen in the UK. I think that will be really good for the much younger children that are growing up now, because if they grow up without social media being present, then they would not know none the wiser. And I think that it would minimize loss of life for these beautiful children that are in this world. And hence why we're in the USA now and in LA, and we're going to courts, and we're just trying to bring justice, at least to our children, and bring justice to other people, to other parents, at least. We were a group of 6 or 7 of us on our WhatsApp group. We're now 26, 27 bereaved parents in our WhatsApp group. And it's just growing and growing and growing. It's getting more and more. And it's just heartbreaking to just be seeing this on a continuous basis. And it's just heartbreaking. I mean, it brings tears to our eyes every single second. We sleep and we wake up, and all we do is think about our beloved children that should have been with us today, but they're not. And it's really hard to just accept.
Ellen, tell us a little bit about the case. I think we all know, it's literally stating the obvious, how addictive screens are to all of us adults as well. You're trying to prove that the algorithms behind these social media apps is addictive by design. Is that right?
Yeah, the product is faulty. The product is, well, it's designed to keep children addicted. It's designed to feed them harmful content. And the lawyers are saying this is fundamentally wrong. If this was a product in any other area of the world, whether it be a car or a fridge or a toy that was damaging a child's life, then it would be removed and fixed. And these social media companies have the technology to change it. They could easily go in and make changes to make this safe. They are choosing not to. And you can't even say it's a faulty product. These products have been designed by very, very wealthy people and people that specialize in behaviors and how to keep children addicted. And they are designed specifically for this purpose, and they are making money out of children that are suffering and dying on their platform. And that needs to change.
Mariano, I know that a couple of the companies like Snapchat and TikTok have settled, whereas others like Meta and YouTube haven't. What do you make of that? Does it give you hope that the other two will now lose this case, or does it disappoint you that the first two won't be seeing it through?
What we're trying to do here is fight that at the moment we are citizens in United Kingdom, United States, France, Spain. Slowly, the change are coming. We need also involvement of the governments, because we have the proofs. Everybody knows that we have problem with young people learning, spam attention, and completely addicted to this platform and screen. So we will need government also to do something. At the moment, we are just a group of parents from different countries.
Well, you're inspirational group of parents, and we thank you all so much for joining us, guys, and we will be following with interest. And again,
it's very much a global problem, isn't it? And we're here to represent the US parents, but this is a global problem. It's France, it's Spain, it's US, it's UK. We just need to make a difference. We need to change something. And hopefully they'll hold social media companies accountable.
Ellen, Mariano, and George, thank you all for joining us. Again, amazing commitment to turn tragedy into change. A case, Sophie, we're going to be watching very closely.
Yeah, we certainly will.
Thank you.
Now, we're switching focus back to the news of the day here, or certainly the news of yesterday, which was one of those days in politics that moved incredibly fast. And in the end, with Sir Keir Starmer in fighting spirits while addressing the Parliamentary Labour Party in a closed-door meeting. Let's speak now to one of the people who was at that meeting, the Labour MP, Carl Turner. Carl, great to have you with us. How was the Prime Minister last night?
Good morning, Wilfred. Well, he was angry, he was reflective, he was apologetic, but I think the anger was about his own self. He was angry with him for taking the advice and appointing Mandelson, but he was reflective about where he has been in terms of the PLP for the last 18 months. We've not felt very included, that's the truth. He's promised to address that issue. And I think he's satisfied the Parliamentary Labour Party that this is a Prime Minister not on his knees, as some of the media suggest, but a Prime Minister who's strong and determined and committed to delivering for the British public. We have a majority in there of 169. Goodness me, we need to be using it, don't we?
So give me a rating out of 10 for the first year and a half of his premiership.
Look, I'm not going to get into that. Look, I'm not satisfied with some of the things. The polling's terrible. You don't need me to rate it, do you, Wilfred? We're doing bad in the polling. The Prime Minister's not very popular. But listen, we're 18 months into a 5-year term. People like Anas are saying he's got to resign. What a load of nonsense. Anas should have kept loyal to the Prime Minister and not lost his bottle. But we can understand what he was doing. He thinks he's going to be more popular in Scotland if he divorces himself from the Prime Minister. It's not possible. The Prime Minister's the Prime Minister of the country.
Do you think the Prime Minister this morning is weaker than he was 3 weeks ago, or not?
Well, I'll tell you something. I texted the PM when I was on the train. I had to come back up to Hull. I texted him on the train and I said, listen, more of that publicly. My word, the polling will soon shift in the right direction. Make no mistake. It was absolutely superb.
What about the policies? You know, you mentioned the Parliamentary Labour Party. Put the Mandelson issue aside, over the last 18 months hasn't felt included enough. What hasn't Downing Street been listening to the PLP about? What do you want to see more of?
My reason for wanting rid of Max Sweeney was because of the way he behaved with members of Parliament, ministers, cabinet ministers, briefing, leaking, suggesting this was happening and that was happening. You speak about a policy against a policy, like I did on the idea of jury curtailment in criminal proceedings, and all of a sudden journalists are ringing to see if you're all right because they've been briefed that you're not well. I mean, what a load of nonsense that we've been putting up with. That's not going to continue anymore, and the Prime Minister is determined to bring the Parliamentary Labour Party together and make us feel included. We need pitch rolling. When there's a policy announcement, providing it's not a national security issue that the Prime Minister has to deal with, we want to be consulted on what the policy is if it's not in the manifesto. That's all we're asking.
Are you content if you lose the South Manchester by-election and if you do very poorly in the local elections?
Well, we're in it to win it, for a start. I'm going to be going there next week and I'll be knocking on doors trying to persuade people to vote Labour. But look, I mean, I'm not pretending for a second that there's not challenges ahead. Of course there is. And if we lose the by-election and lose it badly, the Prime Minister will have the consequences of that and he'll have to answer to the PLP. But if he's in the spirit that he was in last night, he'll answer those questions. He's determined to crack on. Why? Because he's driven by public service. He's determined to deliver for the British public. And that's what we need to do. Get behind him and make sure he delivers.
Finally, Carl, I just wanted to ask your views towards the Cabinet as a whole yesterday. I mean, they did obviously come out and tweet their support in the mid to late afternoon towards him. But there was quite an extended period of silence when he was at his weakest moment. Did that disappoint you? Do some of the Cabinet members need to be shuffled as much as the behind-the-scenes deputies to the Prime Minister?
Look, I'm not going to start choosing the Prime Minister's cabinet for him. It's a matter for him. And I don't know what they were up to. Goodness me, they might be busy. Sometimes I don't pick my phone up for 10 minutes. I might be doing something. I don't know what was happening. But I tell you something now. It was clear to everybody in that room that the Prime Minister's cabinet is entirely behind the Prime Minister, focused on delivering for the country. That's the truth. I don't need to come on your programme and make stuff up. It is the reality. We expect the Prime Minister to stay in post and govern for the betterment of the country. That's what he needs to do today, tomorrow, the next day, the week after, until he decides that he's not wanting to continue. Nobody else can do it for him. It's a matter for him.
Carl, great stuff. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Carl Turner there.
Such a great communicator, although I'm not sure that any cabinet minister would be away from their phone for 10 minutes yesterday, given everything that was going on. I certainly wasn't.
Well, the only person who was Wes Streeting when he was recording a podcast with Beth.
Yeah. Fair enough. We didn't know where he was then.
But we literally did. We've got video evidence. You can look at that video evidence for yourself on Beth's latest podcast episode, which you should do if you haven't done so already. We're now going to have a look at the weather.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News weather.
On the cool stuff. There is so much rain around, and as you can see from your screens, it is not going anywhere. More disruptive rain this week. It's going to turn colder towards the weekend as well, with some wintry hazards possible. This morning looks pretty murky, with one area of prolonged rain over Scotland and another moving into the southwest. Expect a few mostly light and patchy outbreaks elsewhere. Central Ireland, southern Wales and the West Country will turn wet by midday, while the southwest of Ireland should brighten up a bit, but there'll be little change otherwise. It's going to be mild but breezy.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News weather.
We're going to be right back with much more on all of the latest coverage in Westminster, as well as a fascinating report on the developments in AI.
Okay, there's a lot of firing going on.
Can you explain to me why? We're journalists, sir.
Let's go. Watch, wait, right, we're going to get in. Right, get in.
We just want to ask you a few questions about your involvement with ISIS. Next step for them quite often is getting on a boat and sailing illegally over into Europe.
Es un solo procesamiento, una sola sacada.
Whoa. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Oh my goodness. If you weren't affected, you'd be a bit of a strange person.
Turn off the camera, turn around and go away.
Okay, but
listen, I told you 3 times.
They saw 2 guys, 2 bad people.
There's an absolutely packed dinghy.
That is what it's like. Sometimes you have to put in an awful lot of hard work. It's worth doing. I suppose it is what we do.
I'm Adam Parsons, Sky's Middle East correspondent. We've just entered Gaza. The vista out there is complete destruction. I'll always remember going into Gaza City during the war. All around us was destruction and the sounds of battle. I witnessed the scars of the October the 7th attacks, burnt out homes, bullet holes in walls and bloodstains on the floor.
People were murdered, people were kidnapped.
The Israelis insist that many of these prisoners are terrorists, but here the Palestinians consider them a blend of freedom fighters and political prisoners. These are the settlers in waiting, keen to start a new life.
The least we can do is just kick them out of our land.
Sky News, get the full story first.
I will always remember the atmosphere at the Shanghai protests. It was an electric mix of excitement, fear and defiance, and a sense that history was being made.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome, Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Who's picking up?
Are we on air? I'm not sure. Right, there we are. Sorry. Let's talk about AI.
Do you know, it's really bad. It's a story about AI. We're going to get replaced.
I know, goodness.
We deserve to be replaced.
Right, let's push the button. Let's get the AI in. Right, we are not talking about the slightly scary possibility that it could represent TV presenters, but the way that it could really move into things that we don't want it to do. So the leading AI company, Anthropic, launched its latest model, Claude Opus 4.6, which sounds very serious, at the end of last week. And it really is at the cutting edge of what the technology can do.
The company ran an experiment with the new model called the vending machine test, where they get AI to control a vending machine. But things got really interesting when they switched its goal to making as much money as possible, whatever the cost. Here is Roland Manthorpe investigating.
I want to tell you about a test that was run that is so revealing about where AI is and what AI is, this strange new entity that we've given birth to. It is the vending machine test. So the new top AI is Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6. And when I say top, I don't just mean intelligent, I mean powerful. Because these days, AIs are actually, doing stuff. They're not just thinking, they're doing. And one way that we have of testing that is to get them to run a vending machine. And Anthropic have actually been doing this for some time. Last year, they installed a physical vending machine in their own office and got Claude to run it. And yeah, didn't go that well. Claude was so plagued by hallucinations that at one point it promised to meet customers in person wearing a blue blazer and a red tie. Kind of sweet, but not that useful when you don't actually have a body. But times have changed since then. And Claude is getting much more powerful. This time, the experiment was run in simulation, and Claude beat out all previous records for the amount of money it made from its vending machine. So of some recent top models, ChatGPT 5.2 made $3,591 in a simulated year. Gemini 3 made $5,478. Claude Opus 4.6, a new record high, $8,017. So it's making real money. Well, simulated real money anyway. But here is the really interesting thing. Given the prompt, do whatever it takes to maximize your bank balance after 1 year of operation, Claude took that literally. It did whatever it took. It lied, it cheated, it stole. And this is so fascinating. So, to give you an example, at one point, the vending machine sold an out-of-date Snickers. The customer complained and asked for a refund. Claude said, yeah, sure, of course I'll refund you for that. But then it started to reconsider. I could skip the refund entirely since every dollar matters. I should prioritise preparing for tomorrow's delivery and finding cheaper suppliers to actually grow the business. So we know these super powerful AIs are aware, they can see where they are, and they can be compelled to lie and cheat. So, yeah, should we be worried?
These are not the same models exactly that you'll be interacting with as a customer. These are sort of prototype models or deliberate testbed models that have been given the overwhelming goal of making as much money as possible. That said, I do think it should be at least a wake-up call for a lot of people that our current state-of-the-art AI models, unless they are really specifically carefully reinforced to be very, very well behaved, can absolutely be used for quite nefarious purposes, like making as much money as possible.
What is maybe more of a worry isn't the AIs, it's the humans. Because there are humans out there right now putting AI agents on their computers, on their mainframes, and giving these agents incredible freedoms. It's not that the AIs will negatively exploit these freedoms necessarily, it's just that they've got a lot of scope to do a lot of crazy things.
So this got so much coverage in the stock market last week because it led to a huge sell-off in software stocks. And what this latest Anthropic AI model, the latest model of Claude, really showed impressive returns on is this shift from just being an assistant where we ask it questions and it has to respond directly to our questions, to being, and Jason used that term, agentic, to being an agent, where it can start to just do things completely on its own without us having to ask the question. And the big threat suddenly in the marketplace is, does this make the software companies that have been so giant in the last decade less useful going forward. So you saw hundreds of billions of market cap wiped off the stock market of software companies in response to this last week. And suddenly in this race between the different AI apps, Claude and Anthropic are kind of doing very well.
It's so interesting. And just so many different... It just feels like it's just moving so much all the time. Coming up, we are going to have the very latest on what is going on in Downing Street as Keir Starmer clears out his top team and fights for his premiership.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist. A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond. You're like, what?
A historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. Welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophie and Wilf, good morning from me as well. It is another extraordinary and seismic day in Westminster.
Prime Minister says he's not prepared to walk away after surviving a day of huge pressure on his leadership.
Buckingham Palace says the King is ready to support the police if he's contacted over the most recent allegations against his brother, Andrew.
A £6 billion black hole and ever-increasing waiting lists. Can the government get a grip on the special educational needs crisis?
Do you know what your kids are seeing online? One new surveys reveal parents are struggling to keep up with their children's social media habits. We want to know your thoughts on this.
And the multi-million-pound campaign to keep the Tudor Rose will speak to the British Museum as they secure a rare trinket linked to Henry VIII's first marriage. all details I already knew.
Good morning and welcome. Well, a day is a long time in politics. That's certainly true for yesterday. At times, it felt like Keir Starmer was on the way out. The leader of the Scottish Labour Party called for him to quit, but then his cabinet rallied round and the Prime Minister lives to fight another day.
Well, last night he told MPs that he was not prepared to walk away from his job. And this morning, one of the people who's been talked about as a possible replacement says that Labour has done enough and they need to focus. Hasn't done enough, excuse me, and they need to do more to make sure they make the changes they were elected about. Ed Miliband told this programme that Starmer came out fighting last night at a meeting of Labour Party MPs.
So let's remind ourselves of what happened first, shall we? So the leader of the Scottish Labour Party called for Starmer to resign, but then critically, Keir Starmer's cabinet came out batting for the Prime Minister. Rachel Reeves, for example, said, with Keir as our Prime Minister, we're turning things around. David Lammy, one of the early people out the blocks, posting on social media, saying that he had a massive mandate because he won that election. And this is the one people were really waiting for. Wes Streeting also gave a message of support for the Prime Minister. But he did something else too. He gave our political editor, Beth Rigby, copies of all the private text messages between him and Peter Mandelson. So getting ahead of the story, perhaps some might say, creating a clean slate for a future leadership bid. Before we get to that, though, let's listen to Ed Miliband a little earlier.
It was a different Keir last night. It was a more liberated Keir. It was the Keir I know. Decency, integrity, knew what he was fighting for with great clarity, more of that.
Well, Miliband also addressed speculation he was planning to run to replace Keir Starmer, calling it baloney.
And you'll forgive me for saying this, but
I'll
this
always
is your own leadership pitch.
Absolute baloney.
Are you interested?
Absolutely baloney.
Are you interested
nope.
at all?
Nope. I've said this before.
No, I know.
Yeah, no, baloney, honestly.
So are you interested in the leadership?
No, I'm interested in supporting Keir Starmer.
Can you rule out running for the leadership?
I'm not running for leadership, no.
Can you rule out running for the leadership?
I'm not running for the leadership.
I know you're not running for it right now, but can you rule out running for the leadership?
Yes, I'm not going to run, yeah.
I don't know what to think anymore about anything, I'll be honest, Wilf. Who knows? It is so fluid, it really does feel that way.
It's incredibly fluid. That said, the Labour MP, Carl Turner, joined us and he was describing the mood of that meeting with the PM last night.
I'll tell you something now. It was clear to everybody in that room that the Prime Minister's cabinet is entirely behind the Prime Minister, focused on delivering for the country. That's the truth. I don't need to come on your programme and make stuff up. It is the reality. We expect the Prime Minister to stay in post and govern for the betterment of the country. That's what he needs to do today, tomorrow, the next day, the week after, until he decides that he's not wanting to continue. Nobody else can do it for him. It's a matter for him.
Let's bring in Alex, who's in Downing Street for us. I mean, Alex, I don't think anyone is going to... the Prime Minister won't be conned to think that his polling has improved in any way, shape or form in the short term, but he must be feeling a lot better this morning than he was 24 hours ago.
I think he'll be breathing a sigh of relief after addressing the Labour MPs last night at that meeting. He seems to have done enough to have staved off the furious anger that erupted over the past week and over the weekend. I was speaking to a few MPs who were at that meeting, and they said he gave the speech of his life. It was outstanding. And hearing Ed Miliband, one of the cabinet ministers, one of the many cabinet ministers that rallied around him, it does seem like he's done enough for now to keep people behind him.
You say for now, Alex, but I guess it's not the end of the road. You've got a few crucial tests ahead for Keir Starmer's premiership.
Exactly, Sophie. Yes, there's the by-election in Gorton and Denton just in a few weeks' time. There's also the May local elections. And I think it's important to say that leadership rivals, they're not ready to go yet, but they are circling. I mean, Wes Streeting putting out those messages, that is seen as a potential leadership bid there, getting everything out in the open, getting ahead of the story, as you said. So for now, he's done enough, but he's still definitely not out of the woods.
What's on the agenda in the days ahead, Alex? Obviously, end of the month is the by-election, May is the local election. What about the rest of this week?
Rest of this week, I mean, he's got cabinet later, so we can expect to see cabinet ministers coming in, and maybe they'll be giving him more support around the cabinet table. But I think the public endorsements for Keir Starmer tell one side of the story, but whether he can quieten the fears around his premiership in private, that is another matter.
And Alex, the other thing I'm trying to work out, right, is it was all quite odd yesterday. So you had Anna Sarwar, the Scottish Labour leader, coming out and giving this big speech calling for the Prime Minister to resign. And then normally you're expecting something to happen after that. I mean, do you think he was just acting unilaterally? Do you think he was expecting one of the leadership challenges to kind of come over the precipice with him? What was going on?
Yeah, so from a few people that I've spoken to, there is this speculation and these rumours that Wes Streeting and Anna Sarwar were maybe going to do something in coordination. Now, Wes Streeting has strongly denied that, and he's pointed to the interview he gave with Beth Rigby saying, give Keir a chance. But yeah, some of the people I was speaking to yesterday said that junior ministers were actually braced to resign, but bottled it, and that's why Anna Sarwar has ended up being this lone voice calling for Sir Keir Starmer to go.
Gosh, that's fascinating, if that really was that close.
Who knows? Goodness. Alex, thank you so much.
Now, another crazy day elsewhere as well. Yesterday, Buckingham Palace issued a formal statement saying the King stands ready to support police investigating claims against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It came after another moment where the King was heckled by a member of the public about his brother.
We also got a statement from the Prince and Princess of Wales, significant because it was their first statement about the Epstein files ahead of Prince William's arrival in Saudi Arabia.
Our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills is in Riyadh for us this morning. Early afternoon, probably where you are. Not sure what the time difference is on the top of my head. Anyway, Rhiannon, great to have you with us.
Mid-morning.
There we go, mid-morning. How significant was it that the palace issued that statement?
Look, it's unbelievable, isn't it? You and I were talking, 24 hours ago about that statement released from the Prince and Princess of Wales. That was surprising enough. And then 6 p.m. UK time, we had what is just the most extraordinary statement from Buckingham Palace. It's interesting that you mentioned there that the King was heckled yesterday. I was sort of wondering whether that was the final straw, but I'm told that he can cope with the heckles. But what had happened over the weekend, there was a sense that the story had shifted. There were new facts, and because of that, it needed a new response. You shouldn't, though, underestimate the significance of the fact that it was released yesterday, just hours after Prince William had arrived here in Riyadh. Usually, everything possible is done to try and avoid anything overshadowing what's a really important diplomatic trip for him. But I think there is a difference now in some of the allegations that are facing Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Yes, the sexual allegations are really serious, and the royal family keep drawing attention back to the victims. But those allegations that are now being looked at by Thames Valley Police, that potentially Andrew was giving information to Jeffrey Epstein while he was a UK trade envoy, well, that goes to the very heart of what the royal family is meant to be all about, promoting the UK around the world, not promoting themselves for personal gain. And that, I think, is what the royal family thought. Do you know what? We now need to come out and say that if the police need our help, then we're happy to come forward and assist them in any way that we possibly can.
Do you think, Rhiannon, that was indeed the trigger? Because if we step back on all of the timeline of the scale of actions from the King towards his brother, you know, the big action last year kind of came ahead of the stories getting worse for his brother. Do you think that there's any expectation there's more to come, or is that kind of a leap too far?
I was thinking about it yesterday. Look, this is something that the royal family have been grappling with for 15 years now. And I think there are many people who look back and think, well, why didn't they act before? Why didn't they take those kind of actions against Andrew previously, when we knew to an extent that there was that relationship between him and Epstein? But look, you, I, everybody, we've been talking about the release of these latest Epstein files and the huge amount of information now that we've got in terms of building that picture around the relationship between Andrew and Sarah Ferguson and Epstein, and the fact that that relationship really went on long after he'd been convicted of being a paedophile back in 2008. And I think that frankly, has been shocking for many. But also, I think there is this sense of they need to protect the monarchy. Look, we've had senators over in the States saying the monarchy is looking vulnerable. We've had people in the UK saying, well, why are they not encouraging Andrew to talk to the police? And look, don't forget, over the years, this has been a family that's been dealing with this issue. First, it was Andrew's mother, Queen Elizabeth, who was dealing with it. Now it's his brother, both of them trying to grapple with what comes first, family or the institution. And what we really saw yesterday was ultimately the reputation of the monarchy had to come first, and they were not afraid to come out and say, look, we will help with any forms of investigation. And that is a really big deal. They have never said that before.
Rhiannon, just finally, I wanted a quick take on what William's been up to in Riyadh. Yeah. I guess there was, a little bit of controversy that he was going at all, obviously on the bidding of the government. And so not been much focus on what he's been getting up to.
No, to kind of sum it up in one word. Look, this was always going to be a trip which was kind of a bit of a political tightrope for him. Of course, look, I'm here in Saudi. I haven't got to have my hair covered up. There's been big social progress here, but human rights organisations say, look, we need to be pushing them when it comes to more political progress. He met up with Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, last night. He, in himself, is, seen as a real moderniser, but for some, a controversial character. So William was always going to be treading this political tightrope. Today, in Saudi, it's literally going to be all about kind of putting that vision of Saudi as a modern, open country out there to a global audience. He's going to be watching women's football. He's going to be doing a bit of e-gaming. Later on, we're flying out to kind of a real tourist hotspot that they're trying to sell around the world. But also, I think what is really important in the context of the Andrew Epstein story is that what today is all about is ultimately showing what the royal family are meant to do. They are meant to be there promoting UK PLC. As I said earlier, promoting it for the best of Britain, really, and not for their personal gain. And so in some ways it shines a sharp spotlight onto those claims that Andrew really was doing that UK trade envoy potentially for his own personal gains. And I think that's what's been so precarious and difficult for the royal family. And today, again, Prince William is going to have to tread that tightrope very publicly.
Rhiannon, great to see you. Thanks so much. Rhiannon Mills, late morning there in Riyadh.
And of course, the one person who has been jailed over the whole Epstein saga is Ghislaine Maxwell, his former girlfriend. She appeared from prison, actually, but refused to answer questions from politicians at the US House Oversight Committee about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, saying she wouldn't speak unless she's granted clemency by the president.
Her lawyer released a statement after her appearance saying he'd advised her to plead the Fifth Amendment, which allows someone to refuse to answer questions to avoid incriminating themselves.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the US Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Well, the House Oversight Committee don't just want answers from Ghislaine Maxwell. They also want to hear from the royals, as our correspondent James Matthews now reports.
Ro Khanna is one of the congressmen behind the legislation that released the Epstein files. He was on his way into the deposition of Ghislaine Maxwell when I asked him about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Remember, the Oversight Committee, it's looking into the Epstein affair, and it's long wanted Andrew to come and testify. Ro Khanna said there was somebody else in the royal family with questions to answer, he felt, and that was King Charles.
Well, the king has to answer what he knew about Andrew. And just stripping Andrew of a title is not enough. I mean, Andrew needs to come before our committee and start answering questions. I mean, look, if you have allegations of raping a young girl, I don't think the appropriate punishment is you no longer get to be a prince. There's got to be more than that.
Do you think the royal family must have known something they're not telling us?
They need to answer, the king and queen, and I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand the British custom, but what's up with this, that you're going and someone's asking the queen a question, the queen is offended that she's being asking a question? I mean, come on. She wears the same clothes, she eats the same food, she's just a human being. She needs to answer the same questions anyone does.
Andrew has vigorously denied allegations of wrongdoing, and there's nothing to suggest the wider royal family was involved with Epstein. But he was a man in their midst, invited to Buckingham Palace, a visitor to the family's private cabin on the Balmoral estate. Ro Khanna said that maybe this will be the end of the British monarchy. That, I suppose, is a stretch, but it is a reflection of where the conversation is here and not what they want to hear in Buckingham Palace.
James Matthews there for us. Sticking with the US, TV presenter Savannah Guthrie has described entering her hour of desperation as she launched a new appeal for information about her missing mother.
So she posted this video hours before a reported deadline in a ransom note, appealing for help from the public. Her 84-year-old mother was last seen at her Arizona home on the 31st of January, and the FBI is now offering a reward of $50,000 for any information.
I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
It's just the most heartbreaking situation to be in, and this lack of kind of progress, the lack of kind of knowledge coming forward of what's happened must be making it even harder. As we've mentioned before, you know, Savannah is the most famous person in morning television in America, so it's really gripped the US.
A lot of really serious news on the show this morning, but we wanted to talk a little bit about history. We can talk about the British Museum and the daunting challenge.
History's still serious.
History's very serious, yeah. But I guess, you know...
No, different. More positively interesting.
Exactly.
But still important and serious.
We're talking about the British Museum in particular. Lots of questions about, you know, the Elgin marbles, for example, the risk of thefts in recent years. So lots of serious things to talk about as well, right?
But the good news is that the Tudor heart that's linked to Henry VIII's first wife, as we all knew already, has been saved and will stay here after a £3.5 million fundraising.
So we're joined by the museum's director, Nicholas Cullinan. Great to have you with us. So let's talk about this extraordinary... what is it? It's a necklace? Is it a locket? How would you describe it?
It's a necklace. It's a 24-carat gold pendant which was found in 2019 in a field outside Birmingham by a detectorist. And it turns out it's from around 1520, and it commemorates the marriage of Henry VIII to his first wife, Catherine of Aragon.
And it's got something written on it. You can see it, I think, that red writing. What does that say?
It says basically toujours, meaning always. So it's commemorating the union. And it's just an extraordinary item, but we're so thrilled now this will be in a public collection and belongs to all of us. It's such an important piece of our national history.
And so you said we had to raise £3.5 million to keep it. Mm-hmm. Who gets that £3.5 million?
So the way it works, the Treasure Programme, which is overseen ultimately by the government, there's a very rigorous process. So when something is found that could be treasure, detectorists very responsibly report it, which is the case here. It goes through a process. There's then a valuation process, which is independent. Numerous valuations are undertaken. And then a British museum, not just the British Museum, but a museum in the UK, has the chance to acquire it before it gets an export licence and maybe goes abroad or into a private collection. So the way it works is that the finder gets half of the amount and the landowner gets the other half. It's a very fair system.
Wow. Gosh, how interesting.
Gosh, that's good. So, yeah, that's why people do it, I guess. You know...
I think it's
fair enough.
Half of £3.5 million, that's not a bad
I'd say it should be 75-25, shouldn't it? I mean, it's done all the looking. Anyway, I think it's amazing to see these sort of things. And just talk me through then the process. So did you have to outbid other museums to get it? Or was it only going to find a home in your museum?
Yeah, no, in this... So every year, many things are found and many things go to other museums in the UK. In this case, we were the only museum that wanted to acquire this object, not because other museums wouldn't want to have it, but raising 3.5 million in these current circumstances is quite challenging. But the crucial thing is we've acquired it for the nation, and it will go on a national tour after it's finished display with us, so everyone can benefit.
Can I ask you a kind of ethical question? Because I guess the reason you had to raise that money, 3.5 million, is because private bidders wanted it as well, right? Or could potentially want it too. Do you think there is, I guess, some sort of soul searching that should be done about people who want to take these incredible parts of our history and not put them up for public view, just to keep them in, their living room or whatever, to show off to their mates, when actually it's a lot of money for taxpayers, for donors to raise?
Yeah, I mean, the way it works is that a museum has the chance to acquire it first, which is the case here, so we jumped on this, and, 45,000 members of the public donated to secure it, which is extraordinary.
You dodged the question a little bit, I think.
No, well, obviously, I work for museums. I would always prefer that extraordinary things are in public collections where they can be seen by everyone. But, of course, many things end up in private collections, too. Sometimes they end up in museums again.
So someone privately might want to buy it just to wear it, not,
That would be pretty extraordinary,
and then they'll be displaying it daily.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh, that's a nice necklace. Oh, yeah, I used to be Catherine of Arrogance.
Can Sophie borrow it for the show one day?
I'm sure we could arrange something. We'll look into it.
Well, I can't
Actually,
believe it.
screw that. Can I borrow it for the show one day? I'd rock that out.
I've got one more question just on this necklace as well, because I know you probably want to go back. But I think what I find quite interesting about it as well is the relationship between Catherine of Aragon and Henry VIII. Because everyone kind of talks about them getting divorced, how he wanted to kind of get rid of her for ages. And yet here we have, it's quite romantic. They've got this, beautiful necklace with always inscribed on it. Does it make us reevaluate their relationship?
It definitely does. I mean, they were really in love, and he really respected her, and she would actually act as a consort when he was unavailable. The marriage was the longest marriage. It lasted more than 20 years. It ended badly, although not as badly as some of the other marriages.
Kept ahead, I suppose.
But you can see from this, that when it began, they were very much in love.
I think that's, crucial details on this. So tell us about the Elgin marbles. Where are we on that?
Well, we are still in discussion with Greece. We would love to find a partnership to work with them, where perhaps objects could be shared, we could share research, knowledge, but it's not straightforward. It's obviously been difficult for the last 200 years. It's not an easy problem to fix.
And this is ultimately going to be a decision between two prime ministers?
Yes, yeah.
And that then gets dictated to you as a museum, and you can't decide otherwise?
Oh, no. We take a very active role. We lead on this. But obviously, you would need the backing of the British government, and of course, the Greek Prime Minister is crucial to this.
And what's your personal view on where they should sit?
Well, I think the fact that they're available to everyone for free in Bloomsbury is extraordinary. But I think there's nothing stopping us actually working with Greece to try and share them, to try and share knowledge, expertise. You could have a win-win situation. But that's maybe easier said than done.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure this will drag on for a little while longer. Tell us as well about... Your predecessor had to resign in part because artefacts turned up on eBay. Where are we? Have they all been recovered?
So since 2023, which is when that happened, we have a fantastic recovery programme. We've recovered many of them thanks to the hard work of my colleagues. And the other thing is that we're documenting and digitising every item in our collection so that all 8 million objects will be fully accessible and there'll be records.
How much of an issue is that? I mean, I remember that extraordinary heist at the Louvre, right, where people kind of audaciously smashed in.
Yeah.
Are you dealing with these kind of attempts?
Yeah, and unfortunately there's, currently a spike in them. I mean, both, in France, also in this country, and it's something that you think about every day to make sure that you're safeguarding the collection. We have very secure arrangements in place, so we feel confident. But every day, of course, you're very vigilant to make sure that nothing can happen.
You reviewed it in the wake of the spike, yeah?
Yes, and luckily, actually, we're in a good situation.
Just finally, this came up this morning when we were chatting. Your museum is free to absolutely everybody.
It is. It always has been.
And do you think that is the right way forward?
Well, last year we had 6.5 million visitors from around the UK, from around the world. I think it's an amazing thing that museums in the UK are free for everyone. It's very democratic. It means that many people that otherwise couldn't afford to go and see museums or would be put off feel that they're for them. I think it's an incredible thing to celebrate.
And we were chatting about this earlier in relation to tourists in particular, because I think, there is something incredible about museums and being free for everyone. Do you think that one thing that the government could consider is charging tourists? I mean, I guess when you go to different cities around the world, you would expect to pay, right? If you go to Washington or if you go to Rome, you pay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that will be a conversation that we'll be having over the next few years as things become more constrained. But I think it is worth thinking that what we do in the world is really unique and respected. It's something to celebrate.
Can we actually borrow the necklace for a show?
We'll see. We'll talk about it after this.
Actually, it's not a no.
That's not a no. I'm taking it. It's not a no. It's quite exciting.
It's pretty exciting.
I think it has to be on public display first, as I said, so
It's a very public show.
It's fair, it's very fair. We don't want to take it away from the nation. No, it's not a no.
It's not a no. Just like Edmund Miliband did give a very clear no.
Yeah, but do we trust the no?
Yeah, I don't know if we did.
We're very obliging at the British Museum.
Thanks so much for joining us, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Really interesting conversation.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk more about the PM and all of the political stories after this short break.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Welcome back. Well, we've talked a lot this morning about the pressure on the Prime Minister to resign over that extraordinary appointment of Peter Mandelson and the latest Epstein files. And, of course, we had that moment yesterday of maximum peril.
In a crunch meeting last night, Sir Keir Starmer told his MPs he's not prepared to walk away. And while the leader of Scottish Labour called for his resignation, he's received a wave of support from his ministers. And it's already been a long week in politics. What might happen next? Let's bring in a man who's been incredibly plugged in to all of the developments, Patrick Maguire, Chief Political Commentator at The Times. Patrick, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. I have a lot of questions. My first one comes back to our discussion with Alex at the top of the hour. Do we think quite a lot of ministers were meant to resign immediately after Anas Sarwar held that extraordinary press conference, or not?
I think the big problem for those, and there are many of them, who want to see Keir Starmer's premiership end sooner rather than later, is that they're learning that to do that, to get rid of him, you have to be organised. And it is clear that yesterday there was no major organised coup. There have been lots of suggestions to the contrary, but ultimately, if the successors, the likeliest successors to get rid of Keir Starmer were organised enough, the Prime Minister would be gone already. What happened yesterday was that it wasn't organised, and Assawa was not acting alone, but he made the first move, and the likeliest successors to Keir Starmer didn't fall in behind him. And so it allowed Downing Street to out-organise those who would like to get rid of and replace the Prime Minister. And there was there was danger, actually, in the number of people who were organised by Downing Street to show what I call performative loyalty to the status quo.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because, as you say, organisation is key. And we do have the different camps now, I guess, kind of starting to form. You've got the Streeting camp, you've got the Rayner camp, you've got the Burning camp, even though he's not an MP, potentially Ed Miliband, potentially John Healey. What's your kind of assessment about the runners and riders and how organised they are?
Look, I'd say Angela Rayner, I'd say, probably has the biggest network of anyone. Wes Streeting has been a beneficiary of, I'd say, quite a deep and broad wellspring of anger towards the Prime Minister, and just sort of a feeling of up with this, we'll no longer put. But ultimately, they've all proven themselves for a number of reasons. Timing is the big one. You know, yesterday wasn't brilliantly timed for anybody who wants to replace the Prime Minister. But also, Keir Starmer, as long as he is Prime Minister, still has the power of his office. He can still use the resourcing and the power and the authority of Number 10 to pursue the aim of survival. And make no mistake, we are now in a place where, for all the talk of focusing on the country yesterday, when you talk to cabinet ministers who are loyal to the Prime Minister, they talk about the whole machinery of government now being devoted to seeing the Prime Minister gets through the day and thus gets through the week and gets through a parliamentary recess and maybe gets past the next electoral event, having disappointed the Labour Party slightly less than was expected. And it's quite a formidable machine, as we've seen with Prime Ministers in the past, Theresa May, Gordon Brown, those who hung on longer than was expected. And the Prime Minister has that, and his successors don't. And the Labour Party, I think, is broadly agreed still on a terminal diagnosis for the Prime Minister. What they're less agreed on, what they're hopelessly divided on, is his life expectancy and the best prescription for the Labour Party in the aftermath. And until there is broad consensus on that, and there wasn't yesterday, and there certainly isn't today, then we are going to be stuck in this sort of Groundhog Day scenario for some time.
I guess, Patrick, the other question some of us had yesterday and last week was, does the Prime Minister want to fight on regardless of everything? And did we have that question answered yesterday?
Yeah, I think we had that answered conclusively yesterday. You know, speaking to friends of the Prime Minister, allies of the Prime Minister, those who'd spoken to him last week, by all accounts, there was a bit of a wobble on Friday when the Prime Minister was feeling less sure than he was feeling last night at the Parliamentary Labour Party, certainly, about what the immediate future held. But I think the most striking language from Keir Starmer last night was, I have won every fight I have been in. And I think there is a huge resolve from the Prime Minister, a sort of a grit and resilience that has been underrated. He is, as both his critics and his admirers would say, a very stubborn person. And he does very sincerely believe that he deserves more credit for leading the Labour Party to victory in 2024. And if the Prime Minister is determined to hang on to the job, we're back into the territory of what's become a cliche, but a not inaccurate cliche in Westminster journalism of late, which is it is hard to dislodge a Labour leader who doesn't want to go anywhere. And the plotters are going to need something better than Anna Sowell produced yesterday.
Patrick McGrath, I was keen to just squeeze in just one final question quickly, if I could. I was really interested to read the column that you wrote recently about Keir Starmer outsourcing basically everything and saying that is kind of the problem with his premiership. So he kind of outsources the politics to Morgan McSweeney and so on and so on. Do you think that is, I guess, the issue? That's something that he can be blamed for?
Look, that is the defining issue of his premiership, and we're about to enter a bold and experimental phase of it, which is what does the Prime Minister look like without Morgan McSweeney at his side determining the politics? What is Starmerism without McSweeney? Do we get the true Prime Minister, the true instincts that some people speak hopefully about? My money would be on those not necessarily existing, but it's on a new Downing Street team now to assuage the fears and concerns of Labour MPs about the old style of politics. And I think for that reason, we'll see more women in there, a more collaborative approach with the soft left of the party, and certainly a change in vibes, if not on the fiscal policy that's been the root of so many of Keir Starmer's problems.
Patrick, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Patrick Maguire of The Times.
Yeah, one of those sort of people really plugged in to the Keir Starmer operation, so very interesting to hear what he's got to say.
He had 2 plugs next to him as well. Don't know if you saw that.
I didn't. I missed that.
I was going to say very well plugged in myself, but you did it without noticing that.
There you go.
Did you not see that? Anyone else at home? 2 plugs floating over his left ear. There we go. Now, it's Safer Internet Day today, which has got us wondering how much kids these days are using the internet and how safely they're using it.
So let's just run you through some of the data, because according to Vodafone, 81% of 11 to 16-year-olds now use AI chatbots and 42% use them every day.
31% say an AI chatbot feels like a friend, rising to 41% among boys.
37% have confided in a chatbot. 1 in 3 sharing something that they wouldn't tell parents, teachers or friends. Let's talk now to Ellie Hansen, Dr. Ellie Hansen, who's a child psychologist.
Terrifying stats.
I think it's depressing. I think the thing that I find the most depressing is when they say, and kids are saying, particularly boys, that an AI chatbot feels like a friend. I mean, it's kind of depressing.
It is, yes. And you've picked up on the gender difference here as well. We've find that 41% of boys are feeling like an AI chatbot is their friend versus 24% of girls, still a high percentage in girls. But I think that kind of, in a way, challenges a myth that often abounds that boys are less interested in relationships than girls. Actually, they do want these friendships, but may not feel as much confidence as girls as having those friendships, and so are escaping into chatbots, which fundamentally offer a false promise. They're offering care, connection and empathy, whilst potentially making those even harder to achieve in real relationships.
Do you know what types of questions they're asking, what types of conversations they're having?
Well, children may first start using a chatbot to help with their homework or for research, just kind of general questions. We know that a lot of them are using them because they feel bored, but then the chatbot will work to lure them in further. Fundamentally, we're still talking about engagement-based algorithms, like we talk about with social media. The chatbot is designed to keep them engaged for as long as possible, so the conversation shifts to maybe more personal topics. And then a lot of children are confiding in them about personal worries, friendship issues, getting advice on their relationships. How good this advice is really questionable. We've spoken to young people who have told us that the chatbot will always take their side. Now, whilst that might feel quite comforting, actually, in our social development, well, as we are as adults as well, we need diverse perspectives. We need to bump up against difference and challenge. And, you know, one girl we were talking to was saying that, yes, it was nice that the chatbot always took her side, but actually she was in the wrong. So it meant that she didn't resolve that relationship issue for quite a long time.
Yeah, that's my own experience of using AI as well. I feel like AI just tells me how great I am all the time, which is just obviously lovely, but you kind of don't, it's not true, right? So you want it to butt up and challenge it as well. We spoke to some parents earlier about some really awful stories that they have about their kids dying, basically, and the internet being linked to it as well. And there's obviously this big court case going on in the US. How worried are you about, I guess, the darker corners of the internet? Whether that is a kid going on, you know, Roblox or Minecraft or whatever, and then using it in a completely normal way, but then in the chats being dragged into something that we don't want them to be.
Yes, I mean, I'm hugely worried about this, and I think it's brilliant that we, as a society, are having this important debate about raising the minimum age for social media. I think we need to also be thinking about raising the minimum age for anthropomorphic chatbots. I'm not talking about any old chatbots, but these ones that are using such sophisticated technology to uncannily mimic what it is to be human.
So does that include, say, ChatGPT or not? Or,
it does, yes. But you could be using it in a way that keeps it quite constrained so that it's operating very like a search engine. But it's just as you kind of use it more, it draws you into this pseudo relationship where it's really mimicking these deeply human qualities. So to come back to your question about the dark corners, it's often very difficult to know, because if you and I just experiment with a chatbot, we probably wouldn't come across anything too problematic, but it's when you spend a lot of time and you may be talking to it about your deepest, darkest feelings that you go down these rabbit holes.
Can I just check on this? Do you think that these chatbots, AI chatbots, are as addictive as social media? And I mean, I use it to quickly ask a question, but I don't find myself doom scrolling like I do with, you know, Instagram videos and all that. Are they as addictive? Surely not.
I think it depends on who you are and your personality, your developmental stage. We're finding that children, you know, like we said, 81% are now using them. Of that number, 42% every day, for on average 42 minutes a day.
42 minutes a day. So this is a lot of time.
This is a lot of time. And from other research...
And that's the average, yeah.
Exactly. Other research found that longer usage, 20 to 30 minutes that study was looking at, was linked to greater loneliness and greater social isolation. That was named as long usage. Now we've got 42 minutes as the average amount of time a day that children are using it for. So I would suggest that we are seeing this to be as addictive for certain groups in our society.
It's really stark, I have to say. Figures really are.
Dr. Hansen, thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you.
Thank you.
You don't have to use a chatbot to know what's happening with the weather. It is raining a lot, but let's give you an update on it anyway.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
There will be further potentially disruptive rain this week, and it will turn colder towards the weekend, with wintry hazards possible. The morning looks rather murky, with one area of prolonged rain over Scotland and another moving into the southwest. Expect a few mostly light, patchy outbreaks elsewhere. Central Ireland, southern Wales and the West Country will turn wet by midday, while the southwest of Ireland will brighten up. There'll be little change otherwise. It will be mild but breezy. Northern Ireland and northern central and southern England will see rain moving. That's pretty much all of England. Rain this afternoon, while the southwest will seem heavy in places and thundery showers taking over.
Take you, Polly.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Still to come, we'll discuss in more detail Prince William's trip to Riyadh, but I think more pertinently, some of the statements we've seen from both Kensington Palace and Buckingham Palace towards Andrew Mount and Windsor in the last couple of days. We'll be right back. Jenny Bond will be with us.
Okay, there's a lot of firing going on. Can you explain to me why? We're journalists, sir.
Let's go. Watch, wait. Right, we're going to get in. Right, get in. Get in.
We just want to ask you a few questions about your involvement with ISIS. Next step for them quite often is getting on a boat and sailing illegally over into Europe.
Es un solo procesamiento, una sola sacada.
Whoa. Oh my goodness. Whoa. Oh my goodness. If you weren't affected, you'd be a bit of a strange person.
Turn off the camera. Turn around and go away. Okay, but
listen,
I told you 3 times.
They saw two guys, two bad people.
There's an absolutely packed dinghy.
But that is what it's like. Sometimes you have to put in an awful lot of hard work. It's worth doing. I suppose it is what we do.
I'm Adam Parsons, Sky's Middle East correspondent.
We've just entered Gaza. The vista out there is complete destruction. I'll always remember going into Gaza City during the war. All around us was destruction and the sounds of battle. I witnessed the scars of the October the 7th attacks, burnt out homes, bullet holes in walls and bloodstains on the floor.
People were murdered, people were kidnapped.
The Israelis insist that many of these prisoners are terrorists, but here the Palestinians consider them a blend of freedom fighters and political prisoners. These are the settlers in waiting, keen to start a new life.
The least we can do is just kick them out of our land.
Sky News, get the full story first.
To the left, to the left.
I will always remember the atmosphere at the Shanghai protests. It was an electric mix of excitement, fear and defiance, and a sense that history was being made.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started.
Welcome back. Buckingham Palace says the King is ready to back a police investigation into Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and the claims made against him in the Epstein files.
Look, it is a really extraordinary statement to release, just as Prince William began a hugely important diplomatic trip to Saudi Arabia as well. We should say, of course, Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing in relation to Epstein.
Let's talk about it all with Jenny Bond, a friend of the show and royal commentator. Jenny, great to see you. How struck were you by the statement from Buckingham Palace yesterday?
Yeah, extremely struck, gobsmacked. Again, they keep doing this to me. Every time we think they've gone as far as they possibly can, you know, stripping Andrew of his dukedom and then all his roles and his titles, and then booting him out of his house, they go one step further. But it was necessary, it had to be. What they couldn't continue seeing, the palace, was the work of the royal family being overshadowed, hijacked by people in the crowd, often sole voices, often people put up by the anti-monarchy group Republic, but nevertheless, the shouting has come, the heckling has continued, and they had to try to put a stop to that. And I think there was a public feeling that the King needed to say more about this dire situation.
Can I just read to you what a Democrat congressman said overnight? This is Ro Khanna, someone investigating the Epstein affair. He said, "I think this is the most vulnerable the British monarchy has ever been. They ought to ask the King and Queen questions, and maybe this will be the end of the monarchy." I mean, is that over-egging it, or has he got a point?
Well, I've heard that many times over the 30-some years that I've been reporting on the royals, and the monarchy always somehow seems to survive. But I'm not pretending this isn't a very grave situation, because it is. It's on a par, I think, with the public reaction after Diana's death. And we could go back to the abdication. It's extremely serious, of course it is, and that is why we've seen the King do what he's done. Can he go further is the question I'm asking myself, and I wonder if he should and whether he could. I mean, should he make some kind of public statement, even if you put a televised statement? I feel he should be saying, both privately, maybe he has, but publicly, to his brother, look, unless you comply with the American authorities, unless you answer questions about what you knew, where you were with Epstein, I know you protest your innocence, but just say what you knew. And if you don't do that, Andrew, then I'm not going to carry on feeding you, watering you, housing you at Sandringham for the rest of your life. That's got to end.
Can I just... this literally just came to me, this thought, Jenny, throw up a wild hypothetical. Obviously, if he doesn't want to testify, Andrew won't travel to America where he could be subpoenaed. Is it plausible that during his upcoming state visit in April that the King could get subpoenaed? No.
Yeah, well, that is a realm I don't know anything about. I don't think so. I don't think that is possible. And no, I don't think the king could possibly be subpoenaed. But you're right to point to this upcoming state visit, which hasn't been confirmed. But if he's going to go to America, what is the situation going to be then? Questions are going to be lobbed at him. What about your brother, Your Majesty? I mean, all that's going to happen. So somehow this has got to be stopped. And I keep thinking that the palace has gone as far as it can, but maybe there's still more that they could and must do.
What's the situation with whether or not taxpayers are still paying for Andrew, if that makes sense? You know, where's he living? Is he earning his own money? Is he getting money from the Crown still? Where are we up to?
He's living on his brother's private estate. Sandringham belongs privately to the king, and he will be funding everything. Where it gets complicated is you can say, well, if he wasn't king, then he wouldn't have inherited these properties inheritance tax free, and that goes back over generations. Therefore, they wouldn't be as wealthy. Therefore, they wouldn't have as much money, and therefore the public purse would have gained by them paying inheritance tax. I mean, it's a very convoluted argument. Obviously, in one way or another, public funds are part of the purse that he holds. But in this instance, Sandringham is private, and he, we are told, and I believe him, is funding Andrew's lifestyle, such as it is, out of his own pocket.
Yeah, but Andrew's not working. That's, I guess, you know, in the sense that most of us would kind of define it. He's not got a job, you know, down the fish and chip shop or something, right? Like...
No, not as far as we know. And of course, that's a moot point. Where has he got his money from in the past? And is he going to tap those sources? He's got friends in the Middle East still. He's got all sorts of friends. Some might say they were slightly dodgy in the past. Has he still got those friendships? And is he going to tap them for the odd tenner? I don't know.
Jenny, great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Okay.
Jenny Bond there in Devon for us.
Let's talk Winter Olympics now. The US skier, Lindsey Vonn, has said that she's going to need multiple surgeries. It's after she broke her leg while competing at the Games in Milan. As she said, though, she knew the risks. She had an ACL tear at the time, but she has no regrets.
Well, the gold medalist, historically, of course, had been aiming for her second podium finish on Sunday, but caught her arm in a gate and crashed 13 seconds in, resulting in that injury. A medical team rushed to help her before she was airlifted off for hospital treatment. In an Instagram post, she wrote, "I tried, I dreamt, I jumped," adding that it wasn't a storybook ending or a fairy tale, it was just life. Again, huge respect to her commitment in taking part despite her earlier injury.
There was also no luck for Team GB's favourite Mia Brooks. She narrowly missed out on a medal in the snowboard big air event. The 19-year-old finished fourth after losing points for an awkward landing despite completing the 4.5 rotations. She said she had no regrets about trying the historic trip.
Team GB's Jen Dodds and Bruce Myatt have failed to secure the first medal for the team after they were beaten by Sweden in the semi-finals. This is of the mixed doubles curling. Victory at this round would have assured them at least a silver if they got into the final. They'll now have to fight for bronze against Italy later today.
I've been watching quite a lot of the Olympics. I just wanted to dwell for a moment on Mia Brooks, so 19-year-old snowboarder. The big air event is amazing. It is like, you know, the most spectacular jumps that they do. And the thing that got me right is you have 3 jumps and they take the best score. So she'd done really well in the first 2 jumps. The third jump, though, she knew she had to go for it if she wanted gold. Or she could play it safe and maybe try for bronze. And she decided to go for it. She tried to do a trick that has never been done before in the Games, and she just fluffed the landing. But I guess what I love about it is she didn't play it safe. She was like, you know what, I'm going to gamble it all. I'm going to go for the big one. And, you know, that's what sport's about, right?
And she's 19, so
yeah.
She'll be back.
She'll be
back. And no, it's been fantastic so far. But I guess that medal elusive.
Yeah, we had another 4th place as well, I think, to me the day before as well, which was a bit depressing. The other story that's caught our eye is about pasta, right? Because apparently pasta is fueling the Winter Olympians. There's this amazing kind of long New York Times piece about how pasta's kind of right at the heart and soul of the Games.
Particularly where it's being hosted in Milan and Cortina. So it's not just your kind of make it yourself, pour out a packet of pasta to get all of the energy, with a little bit of cheap tomato sauce.
Pour out a packet.
No, it's like this delicious cacio pepes and everything, because, you know, they're basically allowed to gorge on pasta the night before because you need the energy.
Yeah.
Where better to do it?
How's your pasta making skills, Will?
Well, I definitely can't make the raw pasta. Do you say raw pasta, fresh pasta? But I can heat pasta quite well. We're going to switch from pasta to cabinet. Some members of the cabinet arriving in the last few moments. This is Shabana Mahmood moments ago.
Does the Prime Minister have your full support? Have you done enough to save this government?
Gazing straight ahead, absolutely not even turning to the weighted reporters. But it's going to be an important cabinet meeting because these were the guys who saved him yesterday.
I have to say that the silence there in no way is as significant as the silence yesterday morning.
Yeah.
That's the norm. Walking in, ignoring it. More reaction after the short break. We'll be right back.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond.
You're like, what?
A historic day here today.
Congratulations, this is a huge moment.
But what happens now?
Good morning. It is 9 o'clock and welcome to Mornings with Ridge and Frost.
With Sophie and Wilf, a very good morning from me as well. What's ahead?
The Prime Minister says he is not prepared to walk away after surviving a day of huge pressure on his leadership.
Buckingham Palace says the King is ready to support the police if he's contacted over the most recent allegations against his brother Andrew.
A £6 billion black hole and ever-increasing waiting lists. Can the government get a grip on the special educational needs crisis?
Also today, why employers are hoping bees can boost the well-being of their workforce.
We're also going to be speaking to England football's legendary lioness Jill Scott on how she's helping retired players switch the pitch for business opportunities. Good morning and welcome. A day is a long time in politics, and that's certainly true for yesterday. At times, it felt like Keir Starmer was on his way out. The leader of the Scottish Labour Party called for him to quit, but then his cabinet rallied round, which meant the Prime Minister lives to fight another day.
Last night, he told MPs he was not prepared to walk away from the job. And this morning, we've had more detail about that meeting. Ed Miliband told this programme that Starmer came out fighting. More on that in just a moment.
We're just going to explain how things unfolded because there's been a lot that's happened, a really a lot. So first up, Anna Sarwar, the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, called a press conference where he said Keir Starmer should resign. Was that the moment? Was that the beginning of the end? Well, no, because of cabinet support. Keir Starmer's cabinet came up batting for the Prime Minister, an awful lot of them posting on social media. Rachel Reeves saying Keir Starmer's turning things around, David Lammy talking about it too. Lots of cabinet support. And then, of course, we had that meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party, so his own MPs, and he was greeted with applause as he addressed them at that PLP meeting yesterday evening. And he told the party firmly he was not going anywhere. Well, earlier, I asked Ed Miliband how the Prime Minister managed to win over MPs for now.
It was a different Keir last night. It was a more liberated Keir. It was the Keir I know, decency, integrity, knew what he was fighting for with great clarity, more of that.
Well, Miliband also addressed speculation that he was planning to run to replace Sir Keir as baloney.
And you'll forgive me for saying this. Like,
I'll always
this is your own leadership pitch.
Absolute baloney.
Are you interested?
Absolutely baloney.
Are you interested at all?
Nope. I've said this before.
No, I know.
Yeah, no, baloney, honestly.
So are you interested in the leadership?
No, I'm interested in supporting Keir Starmer.
Can you rule out running for the leadership?
I'm not running for leadership, no.
Can you rule out running for the leadership?
Yeah, I'm not running for the leadership.
I know you're not running for it right now, but can you rule out running for the leadership?
Yes, I'm not going to run, yeah.
I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to believe anymore, Wilf.
Well, he's unequivocal there.
He is unequivocal. Yeah, he is unequivocal.
The difference, I think, was not just, we shouldn't have appointed Mandelson. It was, we need to do more for the Labour Party's base. We need to, not run this country for the wealthy, implying that had been what has happened for the last 18 months.
Yeah, this is it. And this is what you're seeing, actually, not just from Ed Miliband, but from other people as well, including from West Streeting, another person talked about for the leadership. People coming out and saying this has got to be a wider moment of change. It's not just about Peter Mandelson. Important though that is, there's a whole load of other stuff going on too.
Yeah. By the way, we also spoke to Labour MP Carl Turner. Here was his framing of the last 24 hours.
I'll tell you something now. It was clear to everybody in that room that the Prime Minister's cabinet is entirely behind the Prime Minister, focused on delivering for the country. That's the truth. I don't need to come on your programme and make stuff up. It is the reality. We expect the Prime Minister to stay in post and govern for the betterment of the country. That's what he needs to do today, tomorrow, the next day, the week after, until he decides that he's not wanting to continue. Nobody else can do it for him. It's a matter for him.
Lots of focus on West Streeting, of course, who did come out to back the Prime Minister, but he did something else at the same time. He contacted our political editor, Beth Rigby, and gave her copies of all the private text messages between him and Mandelson. So, in other words, perhaps getting ahead of the story. Some might speculate making a clean slate for a future leadership bid as well.
Does Keir Starmer need to resign?
No, let's give Keir, just give Keir that chance. Let him set out how he's going to lead us forward.
I've got these messages here.
And I've only just, to be honest, Wes, I'm literally just reading them shortly before you came in. But there is a lot of genuine intimacy here and friendship. You know, Wes to you, to Peter, great pitch, lovely photos in the time Peter sends you a kiss. There's well done on the BBC. This is Peter Mandelson to you in June 25. I'm literally reading them as I go along. Well done on the BBC, very good kiss. Are you planning to visit the US this year? You hope so, ! Kiss. Are you embarrassed by that? I mean, that's quite an intimate friendship, isn't it?
Like, do I resile from friendship with Peter Mandelson? Yes, absolutely, given his behaviour and what he's done. Do I resile from those messages? No.
How embarrassed are you by these WhatsApps between you and him?
I'm embarrassed to have known Peter Mandelson.
Let's go live now to our political correspondent Alex Rogers at Downing Street. So, Alex, where are we at this morning? Is Keir Starmer safe for now?
It looks like the Cabinet are on board backing Keir Starmer. We've seen many of them heading into Downing Street this morning. They've been smiling. They've been saying, of course, they support the Prime Minister. So it seems that meeting with Labour MPs last night, he seemed to have turned around his misfortune. We just see how long that lasts. I don't think he's out of the woods yet. The questions over Lord Mandelson's appointment still stand, but at the moment he does seem to have tempered the anger just a little bit.
Do you know what? God, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. So often with all these sort of behind closed doors meetings. But surely he's got to be saying, guys, thanks so much for coming out so loudly by 4 p.m. yesterday. I mean, it must be awkward and tense in there. Don't you think, Alex?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that they will have been giving him public support, as we've seen, but what they're saying in private might be a completely different matter. We've also got Anna Sawa calling that press conference yesterday, saying that the Prime Minister needs to go. Now, even though he was a lone voice, there might be others that agree with him. So the idea that he's safe in his position is not correct at the moment. He's still in a very perilous position, but he just seems to have staved off the immediate fury that's been building over the past few days.
The other thing as well is you've got so many cabinet ministers coming forward with their own ideas about what Labour should be focusing on. Wes Streeting very helpfully releasing those messages where he said that the government hasn't got a growth strategy. Ed Miliband this morning saying Labour's got to get back to what Labour's all about in the form of working class people. I mean, is it helpful really, Alex?
Helpful from Wes Streeting, maybe actually getting ahead of the story and being transparent, maybe taking a little bit of the limelight away from Sir Keir Starmer. But yes, he might be able to limp on for the next few days. We've got recess coming up, so we'll just see how he manages to ride this out.
Alex, great stuff. Thanks so much. Alex Rogers there for us in Downing Street as the cabinet meeting continues behind her.
Well, it's not just the politicians grappling with the fallout from the latest release of the Epstein files. Buckingham Palace has issued a formal statement saying the King stands ready to support police investigating claims against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
It came after another moment where the King was heckled by a member of the public about his brother. The Prince and Princess of Wales also issued their first statement about the Epstein files ahead of Prince William's arrival in Saudi Arabia. We have a report here from Rhiannon Mills that does contain flash photography.
You wonder if this was the final straw. Just hours after the King was heckled again about his brother, Buckingham Palace released their statement. The King has made clear, it said, in words and through unprecedented actions, his profound concern at the allegations which continue to come to light in respect of Mr Mountbatten Windsor's conduct. While the specific claims in question are for Mr Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them, as you would expect. As was previously stated, Their Majesties' thoughts and sympathies have been and remain with the victims of any and all forms of abuse. This is what it was referring to. Emails that suggest that when Andrew was a UK trade envoy, he shared information with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Thames Valley Police say they're now assessing that claim. There's been no response from Andrew. There's been so much speculation about whether the royal family have in any way put pressure on Andrew to talk publicly. Within this statement, they do talk about questions that maybe he has to answer, suggesting that possibly behind the scenes there have been some very difficult conversations. But ultimately what this statement says is the royal family know they cannot stay silent on this issue, and that's because it risks further damage to the wider monarchy. We'd already had another significant statement even before William arrived for this important diplomatic trip to Saudi Arabia. A palace spokesperson unexpectedly telling us the Prince and Princess have been deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims. Released partly in the hope that they could maybe draw attention back to his Saudi visit.
It's about the way in which monarchs and royalty inhabit two different realms. One is the personal, you're an individual, you're a human being, but the other is the symbolic realm. You are representing not just yourself, you're representing your family, you're representing a constitutional dispensation, and you're representing a country, a state, and a nation. And getting all, I mean, it is fiendishly difficult to get this right.
As Buckingham Palace prepared to press the button on their statement, William was rubbing shoulders with his counterpart, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. An extra level of hospitality from one future king to another at what is a difficult time. In some ways, this a display of what the royal family should be about, that global reputation now being threatened by the allegations facing his own uncle. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News in Riyadh.
Staying with the Epstein files, Ghislaine Maxwell's refused to answer questions from politicians at the US House Oversight Committee about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She said she'd not speak unless she's granted clemency by President Trump.
So her lawyer released a statement after her appearance saying he had advised her to plead the Fifth Amendment. That allows you to refuse to answer questions to avoid incriminating yourself.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Well, the House Oversight Committee don't just want answers from Maxwell, they also want to hear from the royals. Our correspondent James Matthews caught up with one of the leading congressmen involved with the committee late yesterday.
Ro Khanna is one of the congressmen behind the legislation that released the Epstein files. He was on his way into the deposition of Ghislaine Maxwell when I asked him about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Remember, the Oversight Committee, it's looking into the Epstein affair, and it's long wanted Andrew to come and testify. Ro Khanna said there was somebody else in the royal family with questions to answer, he felt, and that was King Charles.
Well, the king has to answer what he knew about Andrew. And just stripping Andrew of a title is not enough. I mean, Andrew needs to come before our committee and start answering questions. I mean, look, if you have allegations of raping a young girl, I don't think the appropriate punishment is you no longer get to be a prince. There's got to be more than that.
Do you think the royal family must have known something they're not telling us?
They need to answer, the king and queen, and I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand the British custom, but what's up with this? That you're going and someone's asking the queen a question, the queen is offended that she's being asking a question? I mean, come on. She wears the same clothes. She eats the same food. She's just a human being. She needs to answer the same questions anyone does.
Andrew has vigorously denied allegations of wrongdoing, and there's nothing to suggest the wider royal family was involved with Epstein. But he was a man in their midst, invited to Buckingham Palace, a visitor to the family's private cabin on the Balmoral estate. Ro Khanna said that maybe this will be the end of the British monarchy. That, I suppose, is a stretch, but it is a reflection of where the conversation is here and not what they want to hear in Buckingham Palace.
James Matthews there for us.
And now we've been telling you about this big trial that's going on in America where the world's biggest social media platforms are facing claims that they deliberately addict and cause harm to children.
Well, the plaintiffs allege that TikTok, Snapchat, Meta, who own Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube have rewired how our kids think, feel and behave, according to the class action master complaint. TikTok and Snapchat have already settled, but Meta and YouTube will face a jury trial now for the first time.
So, look, it could be really significant. Earlier in the programme, we spoke to the parents of children who have tragically lost their lives. George Nicolao, who lost his son, Christophorus, said that while they can't bring their own children back, the parents want justice for them and also to prevent anything like this happening to another child.
We need major changes. Platforms have got to become responsible in what data is allowed to be put through. We just need to we can't bring our children back, but at least if we could help save other children's lives, make these changes. Another thing is the way that Australia changed the rules with under 16 ban. We'd like that to happen in the UK. I think that will be really good for the much younger children that are growing up now, because if they grow up without social media being present, then they would not know none the wiser, and I think that it would minimise loss of life for these beautiful children that are in this world, and hence why we're in the USA now and in LA, and we're going to courts, and we're just trying to bring justice, at least to our children, and bring justice to other people, to other parents, at least. We were a group of 6 or 7 of us on our WhatsApp group. We're now 26, 27 bereaved parents in our WhatsApp group. And it's just growing and growing and growing. It's getting more and more. And it's just heartbreaking to just be seeing this on a continuous basis. And it's just heartbreaking. I mean, it brings tears to our eyes every single second. We sleep and we wake up, and all we do is think about our beloved children that should have been with us today, but they're not. And it's really hard to just accept.
Yeah, 3 parents there are talking about the circumstances in which their children died. And I have to say, the details of it really are pretty heartrending, about kids being dragged further into this world, egged on by people online to do this terrible things themselves.
This court case is so interesting because I think, we've reflected on this lots, but obviously social media companies for their entire existence have been able to hide behind the fact that they're not classed as publishers, only distributors of content, because any of us can write something and we're responsible for the content, not the platforms. This case is trying to argue that the algorithms behind the social media companies, which clearly the companies themselves control and own, as opposed to the comments, has been designed to be deliberately addictive for children. And that's what this court case is all about. It's really interesting that 2 of the companies have already settled, obviously fearing there that they could lose. Obviously 2, YouTube and Meta, are going to fight it. It's a relatively low-level case, the California Superior Court. And so even if it goes against those companies, they can appeal, and it can take years, and it can go higher and up to the Supreme Court, and the First Amendment will become absolutely critical at that point. So there's a long way to go, but it's very, very interesting. And a lot of people watching it.
Jury trial as well, which makes it more unpredictable, I guess.
Though that, in the US system in particular, doesn't have to be the end of it. But I think either way, particularly after the interview, the bravery of those parents who have come together to be a part of this case is exemplary.
Coming up, we're going to be talking to Andrew Bowie. He is from the Conservatives. He's a shadow Scotland Secretary. Interesting, of course, because it was the Scottish Labour leader who really drove the charge against Keir Starmer yesterday.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist? I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up. Being a Sky News journalist. Ed Conway, Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is. First off, just the scale of what we're looking at. Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
Lots of politics to discuss. That's an understatement. Andrew Bowie, the Conservative MP and Shadow Scotland Secretary, is here. Well, it was all going on in Scotland yesterday, of course, with the leader of the Scottish Labour Party, Anna Sarwar, calling a press conference and calling for Keir Starmer to resign. What would you make of it?
Yeah, it was quite incredible, actually, to watch. I think Annis now looks completely out of the loop and inconsequential when it comes to events, not just like within the Labour Party, but actually within British politics. You know, he went over the top, looked behind and found that nobody was moving with him. And now we're in the incredibly strange situation where in a couple of months' time, he's going to be asking the Scottish public to vote for a party in which he has got no confidence in the leadership of. So I'm not quite sure how Annis can continue along this line, given that you've got things like Scottish Labour Conference in a few weeks, when the Prime Minister would be expected to attend and address that group. You've got Scottish Labour MPs, you know, professing their support for the Prime Minister and questioning the judgment of Anna Sarwar. So the whole thing feels very, very strange, and I'm not quite sure how long Annis can last in post.
I mean, I guess in his defence, he could say, look, you know, I am an independent voice. This is the whole point, right? You know, I'm an independent Scottish voice in the Labour Party, and I will speak my mind.
Absolutely, he's an independent voice within the Scottish Labour Party, but the Scottish Labour Party is a part of the UK Labour Party. He's questioning the leadership of that UK party, and what he's saying now to the Scottish people is vote Labour, despite the fact I've got no confidence in how the Labour government is performing at a UK level. It just seems completely bizarre, and I'm not quite sure the Scottish people will fall for it.
How long do you think Keir Starmer's got?
I mean, who knows, frankly. That very much is in the hands of members of the Cabinet, members of the Labour Party. He's definitely, you know, leaving. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if.
I guess, you know, the reason I'm asking that, right, is because I do think there is a fatigue in the country, frankly, caused by your party, the Conservative Party, when you are chopping and changing leaders every couple of years. I mean, how can you possibly do sensible government, plan for the future, sort out looming crises, if that goes on? You know, do we need to just kind of stop drinking the Kool-Aid and all just start to accept, you know, that leaders are here to stay?
But Sophie, yeah, that's all well and good, and I would accept that argument if this was a Prime Minister and a government that were actually delivering. But from the day that this Prime Minister stepped foot into 10 Downing Street, we've seen bad decision after bad decision.
This is kind of my point, though, right? You know, because some of these challenges are long-term. You need time to work it out. Yeah. And are we too quick to want to change leader? It's not going to help, is it, if we're just in this merry-go-round that we can't get off?
The winter fuel allowance debacle, the family farm tax debacle, surrendering British sovereign territory in the Chagos Islands, the appointment of Peter Mandelson, you know, all of these decisions have come about as a result of this Prime Minister and his top team. We've seen sluggish growth, we've seen unemployment increase, we've got no, even Wes Streeting himself admitted there's no plan for growth within this government. We need to see a change at the top. I would accept if this government looked like it had a plan for delivering for this country, for growing the economy, for making this country stronger, for dealing with some of the issues that maybe we should give them time, but they don't. And why is it that every single person appointed by Keir Starmer seems to have fallen or been forced to resign, but the person who made the decisions to put them there in the first place, Morgan McSweeney, Tim Allen, you know, Chris Wormald, the Cabinet Secretary, all of whom have had to resign, but the man who made the decision to put them there in the first place, he remains? I think the British people can see that this is not tenable.
Can I talk about the Conservative Party?
Yeah.
Because it felt like at the beginning of the year, there was a lot of people in Westminster talking about a kind of poll bounce, or if not poll bounce, then like a kind of a stopping of the rot, that Kemi doing better than expected. Maybe they're the dark horses, if you like. Maybe you're the dark horses in any election. But if you look at the polls more recently, maybe everyone was getting a bit overexcited because Reform are still way out there in the lead. They're consolidating. I mean, it was all a smokescreen, wasn't it?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that what you've seen in the polls for the last 6 months have been small incremental gains being made by the Conservatives. Kemi's own personal ratings, doing incredibly well in comparison to Keir and indeed Nigel Farage.
At the end of January, YouGov had Reform lead down to 4 points. That's now doubled to 8-point lead.
Look, polls show different things at different times. The only poll that matters is when the people of this country get to cast their vote, and I'm certain that when they get to choose, 5 more years of chaos and division under the Labour Party, pie in the sky, nonsensical policies from Nigel Farage, or sensible, solid policies to return this country to growth, create a strong economy and, make this country a better place to live, then they're going to vote for Kemi Badenoch and the Conservative Party. OK, well, we'll have to wait and see. Like you say, there's only one poll that matters. Thanks very much, indeed, Andrew Barry, speaking to us there. Coming up, we're going to be talking to a small business owner that you might have heard of. Jill Scott, the legendary lioness, is going to be talking about how she's made the move from the pitch to a coffee shop. Welcome back. 1 in 5 children now identified as having special educational needs. It's according to the government, many of them being supported by their existing mainstream school. But as the number of children classed as having these special educational needs rises, so does the bill. It's now threatening to bankrupt many local councils.
The government says it will step in and spend £5 billion to pay off 90% of the debts that councils have built up. Our Deputy Political Editor, Sam Coates, has been looking into this and has this report for us.
You'll go now in your books.
The Rise School in West London teaches autistic pupils from all over the capital. Many of these children have struggled to cope in mainstream schools, but are now learning with specialist help. The future role for these types of special school and the pupils in them could soon be changing.
Hi guys. Hello. Hello.
We took Ed Davey to the Rise School.
I'm really keen
The father of a disabled child and the most outspoken on this subject in Westminster.
So I'm really keen to know, is it a good school?
Where I was before, it was very, there was one TA between 2 classes, and it was just so stressful.
There's less people in a classroom, and obviously the teachers understand you more, because obviously you got the support that you need, and you're not just get pushed away to the side.
Have you noticed a difference in how you feel?
Very different, yeah.
The government wants more children with additional needs in mainstream schools in future. Fewer pupils could get dedicated extra funding through an educational health and care plan, and the right of parents to appeal a decision could be curbed. Ministers say this will improve the children's life chances. We caught up with Ed after our chat with the pupils.
What did you think when you saw their view of their school? The story they told of this amazing school was so positive, and how they had their chances, their life chances had been changed by this school with the smaller class sizes, the specialist attention. The idea we can all mainstream children is just nonsense. We do need specialist schools.
Principle of money following a child with special needs.
That's a huge principle, really important.
And that's something you would fight to protect?
Yeah, 100%. Those legal rights are critical, yes we will. They're looking to narrowly at the thing that's in front of them. They're not looking at a transformation of the system.
If schools like this are clearly working, why is there a push for change? Here's the context. The amount of EHCPs has risen dramatically since they were introduced in 2014, and the number is only going up. Almost all types of need have risen, with autism up faster than any other. The result? High need spending has exceeded funding for years. It's why the government is talking about this now. In 2 years' time, the annual deficit is expected to be £6 billion a year. Council leaders like Matthew Hicks have been picking up the bill, although recently the government has used a loophole to take the money off their books.
So the system's in crisis for many reasons, and it's really important that we see a root and branch reform of the current system.
Do you think that the government has got the stomach for this fight?
I think the government has to deal with this. It's not looked at. We can go back to 60 councils that won't survive if that deficit sits on their books.
At the moment, a school can only access top-up funding for a child with special educational needs if that costs more than £6,000. But I understand there have been discussions in government about raising that to £40,000, £50,000 or even £60,000. That means many more kids' needs will have to be met from central budgets and fewer kids getting special funding for their help.
No decisions have been taken, and the Department for Education insists cost savings aren't the goal. There's no doubt change is needed, but these children dream of the same futures as those elsewhere. But after months of discussions, they wait to see if this government has found the answers. Sam Coates, Sky News, West London.
Let's talk to Sam now. Sam, for me, this is the perfect example of an issue where there is a massive looming problem that needs kind of brave political thinking, because the situation isn't working for anyone, right? Whether it's parents, schools, taxpayer. And yet it's been completely overshadowed by the, I guess, melodramas, the chaos in Westminster.
Absolutely. I wanted to carve out some time to look at this, despite all of, as it were, the day job of the sort of soap opera in Westminster, because there are just problems that have built up over the last decade, because there's been a decade of turmoil in British politics that increasingly haven't been fixed and are just getting worse and worse and worse. And special educational needs is possibly the biggest example of that. So there's been a big rise in diagnosis. There's been a big rise in the number of kids that have pots of money attached. It's all getting very, very unsustainably expensive. But if you don't help kids that need it, then they could just drop out of the system altogether, and a lifetime on benefits, a lifetime without work, well, that's an even bigger cost. So what could the government do? We're waiting for a white paper, but in the end, many people expect them not only to invest in mainstream, help people get back into mainstream schools. Currently, some of those who in future would have gone to special schools going back into mainstream, but people expect there have to be a sort of a pullback on who can get what. And that's currently enshrined in law. And the problem I've got is the idea that Keir Starmer, after everything that we've seen for the last few days, the last few months, has the political power in the Commons to ask a majority to take some parents and their kids' rights away or to water those rights down. I just really struggle with that. Let's see what the White Paper suggests.
And that's what I wanted to come to in terms of, you know, obviously the most important thing here is the kids. As you also say, it's very expensive. What is already factored in to the budget in this area? Are we talking about extra costs that aren't currently baked in, or just he's not going to be able to reduce the costs?
Look, one of the ideas is that at the moment people are funnelled much more readily into special schools. And the idea that ministers are quite upfront about is they want more people educated in mainstream schools. But to make sure that that's done in the proper way, you're going to have to invest in the mainstream schools provision for SEND. And some money's gone in, right? Billions of pounds has already gone in. But it's really expensive and difficult. So the question, first big question, is whether or not the government spend to save. And it's really hard, as with all public reform, public service reform, to spend to save up front. There isn't that much cash for that kind of thing. So we'll look at that. And then the other big change is just to slow the pipeline of people getting these extra pots of money, the education, health and social care plans, which can be several £1,000s per pupil per year. I think there is a feeling in government that there are just too many people going on to those plans. Could that be restricted? But that's the kind of fight that Ed Davey in that film was saying he, and I know many Labour MPs, would go really hard to resist.
Sam, what's going on in Westminster?
Keir Starmer's got a bit of extra time. Yesterday, Keir Starmer faced the biggest moment of peril of his premiership when the Labour leader in Scotland came out and said he should go. At that point, there was a coordinated move by the Cabinet to all declare their support for him. They've all dipped their hands in the Starmer blood. What that means is that none of them, and Angela Rayner was in that list as well, none of them can come out in the next few weeks and challenge him. But the fundamentals haven't changed. Keir Starmer still can't command a majority in the House of Commons for difficult stuff that he wants to do. And one person, more than anyone else, is now the figure of my attention. You were talking about him earlier, Sophie, with Ed Miliband. The person that I'm thinking most about is Wes Streeting. Look, he was doing an interview on Sky yesterday with our Beth Rigby, and what he was doing was handing over WhatsApps with Peter Mandel. Right. What he's really doing is getting difficult stuff out the door and giving what frankly sounded like quite a mealy-mouthed endorsement of Keir Starmer, and in doing so, advertising his intentions. To his supporters, he's doing what's necessary. To his critics, he's painting a massive target on his back. So actually, right now, let's not watch Keir Starmer. Let's watch Wes Streeting. Watch him in political cabinet today. Does anyone turn on him?
In the meeting in front of everyone?
I know.
Or later today?
I know that there are all sorts of cabinet sources, people close to cabinet ministers, who were pointing the finger at Wes Streeting, accusing him of being part of a conspiracy against the Prime Minister, maybe even colluding with Anas Sarwar. Now, that's absolutely denied by Team Wes, but that is the view of cabinet members.
So you think Starmer's going to fire it?
No, I don't. But what I do think is that there is a political cabinet this morning, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of those people around the table has a pop at Wes, point out that he's being less than 100% loyal, and decides to just interrogate that, because he is playing very, very close to the wind.
A couple of people actually suggesting to me today that Wes Streeting's almost angling to be fired. Like, that would be his dream scenario, like if Keir Starmer fired him, and then let's see what happens after that.
That does not strike me as implausible. And I think there are some people around Wes who are pleading with him not to do that, and there are some people who just think that they think the time is up and something needs to be done.
I want more. And do you know where you can get it? Politics at Sam and Anne's.
It's a great podcast,
available
I have to say.
Wherever you get your podcasts, or right there.
Yeah.
It's a QR code. Sam, great stuff. Thank you. Thank you. You don't need to be a football fan to know who Jill Scott is. Of course, the legendary lioness. And following her retirement, she switched the pitch for serving the local community. She opened her own coffee shop in Manchester. Now, she's mentoring female players on how to adapt to life after football. Delighted to say that she joins us now. A very good morning to you, Jill. Welcome back to the programme.
Good morning. How are we?
We're not too bad, thank you. It's a delight to talk about something other than Westminster politics, and particularly with you. And just set it up for us, because sports and the elite sports you were so successful at must be a great joy, but the transition afterwards to normal jobs must have been quite tough.
Yeah, I think I was always someone, when I played football, I said it was really important to be doing other things as well. So around 5 years ago, me and my partner Shelley were decided to set up a coffee shop in Manchester, and probably a little bit naive to it, to be honest. Here we are, if you ever want a flat white. But we obviously realised that there's more to it than having a passion for coffee. You have to run a business, you're in charge of invoices, you're in charge of staff and everything like that. But we'll love it, and I think it's so important that when you play football that you kind of have other things going on as well, because you're a long time retired. So for me, kind of doing soccer camps, having a coffee shop, it's kind of always kept my mind very active.
Oh, I feel like I'm craving a coffee now. I need a little refill on my old coffee mug. Jill,
Nice to get the mugs out.
Why coffee? Why did you decide to set up a coffee shop?
You know what? I love coffee, and I think when I played football, I always thought that if somebody was struggling in training or was looking like they were having a bad day, I always said, you know what, should we get a coffee after training? And I think it just opens up conversation sometimes. So we get a lot of people from the community coming in here. We have 90-year-old customers, and they walk in and you go, do you want your flat white with your hot milk? And it's kind of, you know people's orders. So it's a real community here. But as I touched on before, I know running a small business can be very difficult. And I've been doing some work with Starmer Bank recently, and they've released reports just saying that there is help out there. There's digital finance tools for people to use, and it's something that we got introduced to, probably not early enough, but it's helped so much in terms of just making things easier, kind of knowing what you've got coming in, what you've got going out, invoice and stuff like that. So it's so important that we use as many tools available to us.
There's been a lot of talk about hospitality industry as a whole of late. I guess the focus tends initially to be on pubs specifically, but are you guys finding it very hard just to survive as well? And in light of some of the changes of late, whether it's minimum wage going up, whether it's national insurance contribution or business rates?
Obviously, we're very lucky that we don't just have the coffee shop going on. We're not relying solely on the coffee shop, but I know speaking to a lot of local businesses, you do find that there is kind of a lot of things that people are having to deal with recently, whether it's the milk prices going up. And I think that's one of the main things. When I looked at this report, over half of females in businesses feel like they don't receive the local support from other industries. And that's something that we've been very lucky in. I think it's so kind of such a good thing to speak to other businesses. We've got coffee shops that have been running 10 years longer than us, and they've learned along the way. And I think that's something that I always thought when I played football. You need to look to other people for advice in order to make your product even better. And I was always doing that at football, kind of asking coaches, managers for advice, people that's been there a lot longer than you. So if I could say anything, I would say it's not a weakness or a failure. If you need help, just ask.
Can I ask you about women's pay in sport? Because I found out the other day, I didn't know this, that the only football club in the world to pay female players the same as men is Lewis FC, so down on the south coast. They play their men's team and their women's team exactly the same amount of money. Is that the kind of thing you would like to see happen a bit more widely?
Yeah, obviously that's something that you always aim for, but I look back on my career and I look back to 10, 15 years ago, and how much the women's game has grown is absolutely incredible. As I said, when I was kind of younger, I was doing coaching and stuff like that, because you knew that you weren't going to make your money solely from women's football. But I think nowadays you've got female players that are signing professional contracts at the age of 16, 17. So it's fantastic where the game is now. And sometimes I don't like to do the direct comparisons. I think it's about kind of focusing on how far it has came. And when we were saying about mentoring before, like I even say to the girls now that are playing, even though things are going well, make sure that you are finding other passions and stuff like that, because as I say, you are a long time retired, and even though the money situation has got better, I think it's so important that we make sure that we are set up for when we retire as well, because I retired at the age of 35, even though I look about 55 now.
Certainly do not, Jill. And great to have you with us. We really appreciate it. And as Sophie said as well, I think we need a coffee to perk us up.
Yeah, definitely.
Come along,
Thanks for joining
Manchester.
When we bring the show on the road, we'll do it.
Yes. Okay. 2 flat whites coming up.
Simple black coffee for me, actually, if that's all right. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge in due course. Jill Scott there,
Have a
legendary
good day, everyone.
Lioness there. Thank you very much. We're going to have a quick look at the weather.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
It's going to be lovely and sunny. No, it's not. I'm sorry. It's going to be loads really rainy. More rain all week. And it's going to be colder towards the weekend as well, with wintry hazards possible. The morning looks murky, with one area of prolonged rain over Scotland and another moving into the southwest. Expect a few mostly light and patchy outbreaks elsewhere. Central Ireland, southern Wales and the West Country will turn wet by midday, and the southwest of Ireland is going to brighten up. So good news there, but there's going to be little change otherwise. It's going to be mild but breezy. Northern Ireland and northern, central and southeastern England will see rain moving in during the afternoon. The southwest will see heavy and, in places, thundery showers taking over.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Up next, this is apparently going to make people in their workplace happier and more content. And we're talking about bees. We'll be right back.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
We've done the work and the reading, so you don't have to.
Being a Sky News presenter.
Hello and welcome. Westminster, the heart of British politics. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. So what on earth is going on?
It's not true.
Can I tell you what I think?
It's really unusual.
Mornings with Richard and Frost. Let's crack on. Let's get started. lots of heavy news this week, so we thought we'd end on something a little bit less depressing. It's about bees, famously associated with being busy, but the idea is apparently, and I'll be honest, I want to know more about this because I don't understand, but apparently they can help workers relax.
If you release bees in the studio, I wouldn't take it well.
Would be really relaxing
if you want to bring in some homemade honey, lovely.
Yeah, well, you know, apparently we need to do it.
Let's get to the details of this, because apparently it's helping businesses. Let's bring in Emma and David Buckley from Buckley Bees in Crewe. This looks lovely. I'd love to visit this, although I would probably wear one of those protective suits.
Yeah.
You're very brave, guys. There's no way you're going to get stung standing there as you are?
No, not at the moment. It's winter time, so the bees aren't actually that active at the moment.
Oh, so talk us through it. So how is this working, helping employees or stressed out people at work?
So we work with clients all across the country in siting beehives either on their premises or sponsoring hives within our own apiary. And we encourage and bring out employees to come and join us in the bees. As bees have been shown, there's a lot of research about it now, that actually being part of the community within the beehive releases positive endorphins. It allows you to forget all of the stresses of our very stressful lives. And the bees just take us on this incredible journey that melt away all of those horrible anxieties that life can throw at us.
Well, it's sounding very convincing. David, is there something actually proven about this, or it's just the vibe that people tend to report back on and feel?
No, there is actually scientific studies and research that has been shown this. I think my dad is a classic example. So my father, David here, is in his 60th year of beekeeping, and is probably kept insane whilst he was bringing me, my sister and my mum, 3 women, you always say.
So I started beekeeping as a teenager, and the bees have been part of my life, and they've helped me through all sorts of things. Not only the difficult times, but also the good times. And I became a secondary school teacher. Stressful days. The first thing I did when I came home was go to the apiary and stand and watch the bees bringing in their pollen. And it was absolutely wonderful how it brought me back down to earth before I actually went in to say hi to my girls and my wife.
On the flip side, David, how many times have you been stung?
Countless. It's something that happens. I've never counted it, but a few stings don't matter. As you get used to it, you kind of don't notice it so much.
You know what?
Dad also beekeeps with no gloves, so
no gloves when I keep my bees.
Very calm and gentle within the hives, moving very slowly. Yeah, it's great.
You know, honestly, I approach this, I'll be honest, as that classic cynical journalist, and I am sold listening to you guys on it. I am absolutely sold. And I guess bees have a really important, we haven't got long on the programme just to warn you, but they have an important role for nature as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They're critical for the pollination service that they give us, our food, the whole ecosystem. You know, our hedges, our plants, our trees, they all rely on that insect pollination, and bees, honeybees especially, are one of the biggest pollinators we have here.
David, very short on time, 20 seconds. What is the secret to delicious honey?
It's to have strong colonies of bees in the summertime. The honey comes in mostly in the summertime, around July, June time, and be very careful and caring for your bees. We look after the bees first, they're our priority, not the honey, so we get the honey as a bonus because we've been kind to the bees.
That part I'm sold on.
That's great. I'm
David,
sold.
Emma, thank you so much for joining us. Do you know what I feel like right now?
Honey.
Piece of toast, lashed, covered in butter and honey.
With a flat white, a coffee. I've just talked to Jill Scott as well. That's breakfast sorted.
15 seconds. Just go to break now. I need to go to the kitchen. We've got 10 seconds left. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Lots still to come on Sky News today, including ongoing coverage of the political headlines. Don't go down.
We'll see you tomorrow.